Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can anyone do that? Hurts my eardrum. Raise my hand. Like they do at the Milton Learning Center. Good evening. Welcome to Candidates Night 2018. I'm Chris Jacobs, Town Moderator. If you'd all rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Are we giving away something tonight? This is the most people I've ever seen at a Candidates Night. And Michelle's waving in the back. Yeah, we're giving it. No. I'm always suspicious, when you see a room full of people. And we know how everybody likes each other. All right. I am aware of one group of people that have to get up extra early in the morning. So if you'll indulge me, I'm actually going to start at the bottom of the list and go backwards. No, I'm just going to do the Zoning Board of Adjustment first, and then I'll go back to the top of the list of candidates and start with the Board of Selectmen. And then after that, I'll do the school district candidate position. Ground rules, similar to town meeting. Let's just keep it not about each other, but what the candidates would do for the town. I think that's what the residents want to hear. We are being videotaped, and it is currently being broadcast to YouTube. So people do, in fact, watch this. I do hear from many, many people when they come to deliberative session, town voting day, to say that they did watch it, and that it really helps them put a face to the name on the ballot, to get a understanding of where people are coming from, who stands for what, who's pro-growth, who's not, things of that nature. So this really, really does help. But if you have questions, please, from the audience, direct them to me. The others will hear. The candidates will hear. We'll alternate back and forth to give people time to address the questions. If I think a question is not germane to running for office or election, some of them in the past, whether or not someone has kids or not has kids, in some respects that's not really germane to, let's say, being the moderator. I'll use my own race. So that's one way of making it so it's not about the person, it's about the position, it's what that person would or would not bring to that position. Each candidate will be given a 2-minute opening statement session to basically, it's a free-for-all, say what you want to say. Then we open it up to questions from the floor, and hopefully we get some good questions. The and then to end each candidate session, I'll give about 2 minutes to each candidate to make a closing statement in case they remember something that they wanted to say, or if one of the questions prompted them to think of something else. Tom's got the 3 mics up here at the table working, being the priority mics. The 2 mics over the audience are been subdued. So if you speak up, if you ask a question, please rise, please say it hopefully loud enough, clear enough that the candidates up here can hear. If it is kind of soft, we will in fact repeat the question, so don't let that prevent you from asking a question. If you'd rather write a question down, I already have a couple of questions here. for one of the candidates' races. And you can write those down and slip them up here for me to ask. So let's get started. For Zoning Board of Adjustment, 2 candidates for 3 years, Lawrence D. Brown and Stan Nato. Gentlemen. There's Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, you're the elder statesman.
Took me a long time to get this face.
He's trying to catch up to you. We'll start with you for the your opening statement.
Stan and I work together well on the ZBA. And rather than talk about us, I want to talk about the ZBA, what it does. It is a safety valve. It is a fair use review of land questions in the town of Milton. It covers uses that are permitted by statute, and it covers things which are a hardship that are part of the land. It doesn't cover a hardship because you don't have any money. It doesn't cover a hardship because all of your neighbors love you or all your neighbors hate you. The point is that the ZBA talks about issues that travel with the land. And as I said, I work with Stan on the budget committee, and I respect his respect for the rules. That's my statement, and that's why I think the ZBA is important.
Thank you.
I'm Stan Nato. I've been on the board 5 years or so. Well, unfortunately, it's just a handful of people who's always on the same board, so I'd like to see more. But it is what it is. So I'd like to continue again, another 3-year term. The thing I like about the ZBA over any other board I've been on is if there's an injustice, you can rectify it right then and there. There's been examples of a person that had they split this property, they subdivided it, and somehow another down at the registry of deeds, his well ended up on the wrong property. So we were able to fix that for him right then and there that night. Now, that's what I like about the board. We can fix wrongs. So, like I said, Larry's been on the board with me, and we've been there quite a while, and hopefully quite a while longer. And if there's any questions, the only thing I'd like to put it out there that everyone knows is there's a case in front of the ZBA right now about Mighty Joe. Neither Larry or I legally can talk about it. Not that we don't want to, but we can't. So I'll just let you know.
All right. I'm curious, you said you had a well on the opposite lot. How did you rectify it in one night?
We let him change his, the lot boundary to non-conforming.
I thought you drilled a new well or something.
No, we put in a longer straw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ran an extension cord.
Longer straw.
Yeah.
Extension cord. See, that's fine. I had to ask, you baited me.
More seriously, the ZBA also has the ability to have, I believe, up to, no, it's planning board, I think about 5 alternates. Nancy Wing is presently an alternate. Bruce Woodruff is also on the ZBA. Since he is the town planner, there are some cases he cannot serve on, and it is, hi Nancy, and it is useful to have someone who can step forward, be informed, attend the meetings, and do the work of the ZBA.
Actually, Bruce isn't running this year, so he won't be sitting at all.
Oh, wow.
He's one of the open spots.
He's become the open spot.
Questions from the audience for either candidate?
Mr. Moderator, real quick question. How many openings are there for this position?
3.
There are 2 positions for 3 years for these 2 candidates.
So.
The other position, if you want to know, is one position for 2-year term. Steve Baker has submitted his name for it. He was kind enough to send me a statement to read. I was kind enough not to print it, and it's still on my computer, but I do know his wife's here. Michelle's just laughing. She's like, situation normal. So if somebody wants to speak for Steve, well, go ahead. My apologies to Steve. That's for my 2 minutes. Shouldn't leave things till the last minute, because that's the day the computer will not want to play ball with you, and that's exactly what happened today. So, I leave that. Any other comments, questions for the candidates? All right,
easy.
gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, in the other race, it's one position for 2 years. Steve Baker, a resident of Milton Mills, long-time resident of Milton Mills. So I do know that he knows the history and the background of the town. All right. I'm going to go back to the Board of Selectmen race. One position for 1 year, 3 candidates. Lawrence D. Brown, Andy Lucia, and Mr. Thomas McDougall. If you gentlemen would please come up to the table.
Chair is still warm.
Still warm. You're still Lawrence D. Brown?
That was New York, a long time ago.
Okay. You're still the elder statesman. You can go first.
I wasn't planning to talk this much, and again, couple of things that I'm going to talk instead about what Milton has done in about the last 10 or 12 years, how things have changed, and what has gotten better. And here's a list of what has happened since 2006. We have a new town hall. We have new chairs. And if anybody remembers the old town hall, if you had 4 people inside the old town hall, one of them had to step outside so the other 3 could breathe. Things are getting better. There's a new playground, a new ball field at the town beach. There's a new softball field at the elementary school. We have a town cemetery. Ball fields are being planned out in Milton Mills. The townhouse that some people wanted to tear down is a treasure today. The 1875 library has won 3, if not 4, L-Chip awards and is on its way for repair and restoration. We have a new police station, a new fire station, new water tower, new public water supply wells over in Rocky Point. We have some of the best tasting water in New Hampshire. Our transfer station is an award-winning model for other towns. We are #1 in municipal solar, and the panels on the capped landfill bring in $13,000 a year to the town. And lastly, community, pride, spirit, and volunteer work built an addition onto the town garage that is fit for human habitation. Those are all solid things that community and town have worked together to do. It's been my goal for 20 years to do the same thing. I support the work of the current selectmen. I support the cost of building and keeping what already is a great community, and I thank you for your time.
Chris, we got quite a few people standing outside that can't come in. Is there a chance we could put up some more chairs?
They can come in if they want.
There's enough chairs. We just need a break long enough to
Yep.
make a lot of noise.
They can have
I've never seen this many people in the room.
Judson tried to roll that.
I don't know. I'm almost wondering what the occupancy permit is, but the chief's,
76.
no, chief's here, so I'm not gonna.
It's been long for the extra, but yell that.
All right, we'll resume. Andy, 2 minutes?
My name's Andy Lucier. I'll be 60 in September, and I've lived my whole life in the town of Milton, so I guess I can call myself a native. Did I want to run? Not really, but I just feel that, you know, my voice hasn't been heard. I came to the board 3 years ago. It was over. So this board that's sitting now had nothing to do with it, and I complained about the downtown. You know, when you come into the town of Milton, my philosophy is you only have one chance to make a first impression. And you come into the town of Milton and it looks like a dump. I'm sorry, I was the one that complained to the state because they didn't, on the local level, I fell on deaf ears. So the state, I called the Department of Transportation, they dropped the ball. He didn't do what he said he was going to do, so I called his boss in Concord, and then 5 minutes later he called back and he came to Milton, and okay, then they all got involved. So the problem being is people have to be accountable. As Bill Belichick says, do your job. You know, we've got a code enforcement, we got law enforcement, we have a beach commission. Everybody's got to do, why did I have to get involved in this? I shouldn't have to do this. Apartment buildings, I think there's a code that says if for each unit you have to provide 2 parking spaces. Can't find it online, I've looked everywhere. So I just, somebody's got to reel the town in. The taxpayers, I'm not talking about the people that vote, the people that pay the taxes. Some of the biggest taxpayers in this town can't vote. And, you know, one of them called me the other day, and he owns property on Northeast Pond Road that he would love to sell, but he can't sell it because the tax rate, people are going right through Milton to go to Wakefield because Wakefield taxes are lower. Can we compete with Wakefield? Absolutely not. We don't have 10 lakes. I don't know. I just think that things are in place for Milton. I've grown up here. I've watched Milton grow. I went through the Milton school system. There's nothing wrong with the Milton school system. You get out of it what you put into it. I mean, I was very successful through Milton. My sisters, my whole family are very successful. So Milton pumps out some very good kids. I just think that everybody's losing, you know, the taxpayers aren't being heard, and I guess if they want a voice, I'll be the voice of the taxpayers. I did 40 some odd years on the fire department. I really think I've given enough time, but things are just, I don't know. I'm just not happy with the direction that Milton's going, so I guess I just threw my hat in to see if we can upright the ship. So.
All right, thank you. Thomas, 2 minutes.
Let's see. Thomas McDougall. I'm the new resident running for selectman. We've lived here for about 7 years now, 8 years. The things that I see that need to be improved, I think Milton's a great town. I think that people come together, as we've seen recently, came together to build a playground, came together to support our fellow residents in Milton. I think we're a great town. But there is as has been pointed out, a lack of, I don't want to say a lack of accountability, but that's what it appears to be. Things aren't being followed through with. They're being dropped. It's easy. You're a selectman, you got lots of stuff you got to do. Things fall through the cracks. We got to stop that. We've got to start paying attention to when somebody comes and has an issue, follow through with the issue. When it comes time for an opportunity to spend money or a possibility of spending money, do we need to spend it? We've seen that here in the recent past. But it's about accountability. It's about making the people that are at the Board of Selectmen accountable to the taxpayers, accountable to the residents of Milton. Not just the taxpayers, but the residents, the people that are going to be impacted by the decisions that are made here at the board. And that's one of the biggest things that I see that needs to be addressed is accountability. If I would expect my feet to be held to the fire, and I will tell you, my wife would be the first one to hold my feet to the fire if I say I'm going to do something. But that's, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expect the same result. If you want change, vote for something that's different.
All right. Questions from the audience? Ann?
Annie McKenzie. I guess I agree that the downtown could be improved. Okay, Andy, do you have some ideas or grants that you know of, or what are your ideas?
Well, there are a ton of grants out there. I mean, I think the message has been thrown out there, and I think it is a wrong message that basically we're paying for things. They're paying for things out of the fund balance. Doesn't not affect the taxes. Well, the bottom line is, yes, it does affect the tax. That is tax money that's been turned in from previous years. There is some revenue comes in for vehicle registrations. That I think that we're sending the wrong message that it does not affect your taxes, and I don't think that 3 people sitting up at the front of this room should make the decision for the taxpayers to spend big money out of these funds. I think it should go, just for an example, if you want a new ambulance, I think that it should not go to the 3 people up here to spend the money for a new ambulance. Sell it to the 800 people that vote, or 900 people that vote. It's just accountability, do your job, and Milton is not a bad community. It's a great community. I've lived here my whole life. Yeah, there's money to be had out there. I mean, and the big thing in this town, it used to be run by all volunteers. Now the volunteering is going away, and it's like, I mean, if they don't get paid, they don't do it, and that hurts. I mean, because I lived here my whole life, I've seen the volunteers. I mean, I don't know how many times we've redone the park out behind the elementary school. I mean, Rodney Nason was out there every day cutting trees and hand raking it. I don't know, I just hate to see the town of Milton going in the direction it's going in. I guess I didn't answer your question, but no, I don't know. I mean, there's grants out there. I mean, I've got grants before. I mean, there are grants out there. So
You make a good politician.
don't want to be one.
No, I just... Same question to Larry. What ideas do you have to improve the town?
First, just to back up, special warrants are not spent on... Would somebody kill the bird?
It's a cricket.
Cricket. Special grants are not spent on the authority of the selectmen. Special warrants are spent on the authority of the voters who voted in March. Any group of citizens may bring a special warrant for their own interests to come either as a special warrant in addition to the operating budget, or to specify that it comes out of the fund balance. The purpose of the fund balance and the purpose of the new CIP is to level out the tax load. And that keeps taxes going at a stable and predictable rate. It also gives the department heads the opportunity to plan major capital expenses over $20,000 so that they are eased in over a series of years. Want things to improve the town? The police chief and the fire chief have already put out grants and successful grants for bringing monies into the operation of the fire department budget, bringing money in for the special resource officer at the school district. 2 things. We don't have a community center that is separate from the bottom of the town hall here. We don't have a gathering place that is useful and accessible to the children of the district, particularly to the high school students. We don't have a bridge going into Maine. Last time out, I said it would be a wonderful thing if we had a New Hampshire-designed wooden truss bridge going between Maine and Milton over on Townhouse Road. I call it the Bi-State Byway Bridge. I got a better name for it, and that would be the Leo Lassard Memorial Bridge. You want something that is beautiful, you want something that connects the 2 states, do it that way. We've got the old fire station, which is still a usable building. We've got the walk from the school district going right across at the intersection where that building is. Nothing prevents this town from working with the school district the same way the school district worked with this town to give us the 1875 library, which was sold to the town for $1 in 1992. Those are ideas that continue the volunteerism of the town. Looking here, I can see Mike Bolio is not here. When we built the playground, July 19th, 2015, Mike spent the entire day lifting 80-pound bags of concrete to do the footings. I don't see Doug Shute. Doug was there. Andy was there. A great number of volunteers were there. We've got volunteers who put in new playground equipment down at the library. We have Fred Cameron and John Catwick and scores of others who did the volunteer work to build the townhouse into a treasure. That's out there.
Okay, thank you. Tom, same question. What ideas would you have to improve the town?
Number one, make sure that our current codes are enforced. If there's codes that would apply to having cars that have been parked alongside the road for 3 months, enforce the codes that we currently have. I believe that a way to make people, to improve the way things look, is to do things as Larry mentioned, which is something that has been mentioned several times, is come up with a community center for the kids. Something that allows the younger generation, the younger folks, to take pride in being able to say, I live in Milton, I'm going to go to the community center. Or that we go to the community center. It's the little things like that. I say little. Building a community center would not be a little thing. It would be a vast undertaking. But it is things like that. It is turning the fire station from what it looks like now into a vibrant building. Now you're starting to make the ride through downtown. Hey, look, there's the Milton big sign that says Community Center. Milton Community Center. Make it look nice. That's going to, hopefully, would trickle down, and, you know, your neighbor on your right paints their house, your neighbor on the left paints your house hasn't been painted in 30 years. What are you going to do probably the next summer? Probably going to paint your house. Start having that happen, and I believe that it will start to snowball as people start seeing seeing the town improve in that manner. They're going to start taking, I don't want to say a little bit of pride in their house, because people generally do have pride in their houses. When you say that, it's like, yeah, they don't care. That's not the case. They start saying, hey, maybe instead of doing X, I should do Y to make it look better from the outside. I believe that is the way to better do things, to better improve what the appearance is. Everything that we're talking about so far has been appearance, but you bring the community center in, you bring the covered bridge that Larry had mentioned in. Now these are things that people can build buzz about Milton, build the, hey, let's go to Milton. Another possibility would be, we've got a wonderful town forest off of 75. How about if we put in a possible use for some of that would be a disc golf course. What is disc golf? You got basically what amounts to frisbees. You throw them in baskets with similar rules to golf. It doesn't take a lot of space to play. It does take area that you need to set the baskets up. These are all things that would help people have a better impression of what Milton is when you talk about where you live, when they drive through. You see a sign that says, hey, Milton Disc Golf Course, 1.5 miles that way. That gives a better impression of the town. You ride by, you see the community center. You ride down, you see the new bridge that we've got. These are all things that we'll build, and as people see this, they're going to start doing other things themselves. And to make the appearance better, that's what it's going to take, because you can't tell somebody, you know, Chris wouldn't be able to come to me and say, Thomas, your house doesn't look pretty, you need to paint it. You can't do that. So it's going to be this other things. It's how we get the buzz, get people talking about Milton, and get people feeling better about what Milton is. People from the outside, not people that are in the town.
Thank you. Other question? Ma'am.
I have a question. The downtown, you're right, our downtown needs help. We went to an auction several years ago when they auctioned off the thrift store right across the street. I guess it used to be a restaurant. Somebody bought that building. They bid it on it and they bought it. And it's been like that. And I said to my husband, I said, "Oh, Dennis, finally that building's going to get some help. It's falling apart." I don't know who bought it, but why aren't they doing something with it? You know, if the town is going to sell the building, it ought to be stipulated that if you buy a building in the downtown, you've got a year to get that thing up into something better than what it is now. I mean, it's falling apart. By Cumberland, I do have a question. By Cumberland Farms, that big barn that fell down behind that poor house, there's a man that lives in that house. I've seen him. My grandkids say, "Grammy, how come that house is on the floor?" You know, but there's a man living there. There's a person living there. So, and we're all saying we love Milton. I've only lived in Milton 4 years. We moved up to Ellis Road and took something that was a total disaster and rebuilt it. So things can be done. We've done 2 houses in Milton actually, one on Thurston Road and one on Ellis. But my point is that if we want to see the downtown and people to have pride in their town, maybe we can have a list, and I'll sign up for it. I'm 60 years old too, but I can still use a paintbrush and sling an axe. Maybe we can get together and say, what can we do for that poor man that lives in that dilapidated building? Now this takes time. It might take some of Milton money, I don't know. But I think if something for the community to come together, just start a little project, like down by the beach with that playground. My grandkids love to go there. My grandkids go to the school. I'm running for the school board. But my question is, to you, is how do we get these people that own those buildings downtown and coming up through? Because my mom just bought the land at the end of Ellis Road. It used to be the town dump. She put a beautiful modular up there. My stepfather, he's afraid to tell anybody he lives in Milton because they have to go through downtown. But once you get to his land, 11 acres, it's gorgeous. So how can we get those people? How can we encourage them, like you said, to want to do something? That's for you. That question's for you.
And I agree, and I don't, there again, to look up the codes, I cannot find a code, but I know, I work in Somersworth full-time, and Somersworth had the same issue with the downtown. There was an absolute, and they came up with I believe it's under the planning board, but there's a code where you have to, if you call up and complain about your neighbor's lawn being too long because it devalues your property, code enforcement goes out and enforces that code that you will, or if your house isn't painted, devalues your house. I got one right down the street across from the Milton Veterans Park, 4 houses down from me, that the town owns, and it looks like heck. It's been empty for 4 or 5 years now. That devalued my property to the point where my real estate agent told me that my house value has dropped $10,000 in a year. Wow. Not by Zillow, but just if I wanted to put on the market. I mean, that's what I'm jumping up and down about. Is there was cars parked downtown with trees growing out through them, full of garbage, windows smashed out of them. That's what people see.
But how do we change that?
Well, if there's not an ordinance in place, then, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. Then you can come up with an ordinance, and then you've got some, go to the code enforcement and say, here's the code, go fix it. File a complaint. You have that right to do it. Now, whether it has to go to the planning board, I'm not sure how it gets to that point, which they've done it down there. So, and half of the landlords down there were absentee landlords, same as they are up here. I mean, if they tried to put one into the church next to me, and I know we went to the planning board and they said for each unit you have to provide 2 parking spots. Well, obviously somebody dropped the ball downtown. I mean, I feel bad for the people in there, but it looks like heck downtown. I mean, and that's the problem is nobody wants to come to Milton because the taxes are high, and what do you get for it?
Either one of you chime in on that one? How do you improve the downtown?
Technically. If you are a city, there are different rights of ordinance that a city has. If you have a city ordinance that requires grass to be such and such a length, you have an easy enforcement. A person who sells a property can put whatever covenants they want on it, which will be the subsequent owner will have to follow. If the house at the corner of Silver Elm, I can only be wrong once, at the corner of Dawson by the park, is presently in a 3-year gap where the town does not have final ownership, then the person still has rights to reclaim the property. If the town repairs a property which is going to be demolished, it is wasting money that will go against the cost of demolishing. I don't know the details of that. If you have a state issue that starts at the edge of the state pavement, the town has no right of enforcement. In terms of things to do, about 10 years ago when we had the first Economic Development Committee, Bruce Woodruff and I and Suzanne and a few others put together a new traffic plan for that intersection at Veterans Park, which closed off the straight shot, so you had to come to a stop, make a right-hand turn, and get a left-right view coming out. We also had the possibility of having a small traffic calming island, which would be cobbled, which would slow people down coming into town. That didn't get off the ground because there's no DOT money there. Right now, that is still something that the selectmen are discussing. It requires DOT approval, requires landowner approval, and it requires the approval of the selectmen. It is not that easy. There is nothing that requires a person to do anything on their property that is not a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the town. That's the bottom line. Shaming works. Volunteer help works. Somebody who is waiting out a tax sale to sell that property off to Cumberland Farms so they can expand to the south may not want to talk to you at all. I don't know the situation, but going back, something to improve the town, start planting replacement trees down at the town beach. Those magnificent pines are not going to last forever. We're getting more damage from sunlight. Plant new trees, support the next generation.
All right, thank you. Tom, how do you improve the downtown?
As I think everybody's mentioned, enforce, and I did before, enforce the current codes. For the tax sale of properties, now maybe we've learned, hey, the former restaurants, like you said, has been empty. Nothing has happened for 3 years now, however long it has been since it's been sold. Have a covenant on it. Any new property that's sold has to be occupied or something done with within a set period of time, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years. I don't know what the right answer would be for that, but have covenants along with the sale. That's how you do that. The addressing an individual's property, yeah, some of that you could handle, probably enforce the existing codes. Maybe make new codes. However, I really don't want somebody coming by my lawn with a imagine how tall my grass is. Okay, I think that's something we need to be very, very careful about what we do, because law of unintended consequences. I think what is way more effective in that case, you walk over and talk to him. We actually lived next door to him when we first moved to Milton. We lived in a duplex. He's a nice man. I forget what his name is, but I won't bring that up here. He's a nice man. He's, you know, for whatever reason, the house is falling in the way that it is. We're a small town. Instead of everybody talking in the meeting about how bad it looks, a couple folks go by and ask him, hey, anything we can do to help? Whatever it is, whether it's helping him take stuff to the transfer station. I don't know, but, you know, that's how you're going to change something like that most successfully, I believe. And that gets back to the volunteerism that has been talked about. You know, we have to get volunteers to do that. That's not something that really can come from a town body such as the town selectmen, because they just don't have the authority to tell somebody, you need to go paint your house. I don't believe.
Okay. Another question? We do have to keep moving. Mr. Long.
I wasn't going to open up my big mouth. However, I do have a question for you people. As I get off exit by Route 75 and come up through exit 17, up through town, I come across a variety of junkyards. How are you people going to deal with the eyesores, the junkyards which we have in town? There are many of them. You all know where they are. I'm not going to say anything more. I just want to know how you people are going to deal with these situations.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, there is an RSA in the state of New Hampshire that you cannot have any more vehicles on your, no more than 2 unregistered vehicles on your property. There's an RSA, I don't have it in front of me, I stated it to the state when I called them. So somebody can enforce that RSA, and so it's 2 vehicles. I don't care if you have a junkyard, put a fence up so I don't have to look at it. That, you know, every year we rubber stamp a junkyard. I don't care, you know. There is an RSA that can be enforced that allows, unless the town RS has one that trumps it. There's one on the state level that I was told that's how the state had to move theirs, because they had more than 2 unregistered vehicles on their property. I mean, I brought the RSA up and they agreed with me. I was correct. So there are ways around it. I mean, it might have to start at the planning board level and come up with some rules and regulations for the town. But we're going to start someplace. And I agree, there's not just here, don't come this way. Go left, go over to West Milton and look at some of the places. I mean, there's houses with 20 cars in the dooryard. You know, that's enforceable. That part of it is enforceable, so.
Okay. Mr. Brown.
Okay. The state RSA starts out talking about the protection of the visual and cultural attractions of the state, so that people who are driving the Spalding or 93 have a pleasant experience of the countryside. Bottom of the paragraph also says this cannot intrude on the rights of an individual operating a legitimate business in the state of New Hampshire. If you're in 1,000 feet of something like the Spalding, you are covered. It goes down to 600 feet in the town, and the loophole is that if you're a private individual, it's 2 cars. If you are in business, there are different standards, and it has to be a vehicle which is either serviceable for or intended to be in service on the public highway. And that is the loophole. As it refers to Roger Libby as a junkyard, every year he comes to the planning board, he presents his documentation, he operates in terms of the state statute which covers his junkyard, and he is a legit and honorable business. The ZBA, and it is my fault, I was on it. We gave permission to the businesses, a business at exit 17, to have cars there. That is subject to the authority of the owner of the property, who is in an awkward box because of the costs of not having income from the property versus having someone use the property. There is no easy answer for that. I absolutely agree with anything else that is an eyesore, that is unregulated, that has more than 500 pounds of vehicles, either as one vehicle or which together will make one vehicle and get them out. The police department operates very cautiously, prudently, dealing with the rights of private ownership in the town. I respect that.
Mr. McDougal, junkyards along Route 75.
I'm kind of beating a dead horse. If you've got codes on the books, enforce what's there. I believe I have been to several meetings where the topics of this nature have come up. And again, going back to what I've said about following through and being accountable for what has been said, what has been done. This is an example of it. If it sounds like a resident's concern hasn't been satisfied, and maybe the end result is it is a permanent operation. There's nothing that the town can do about it. Maybe that's the outcome. Maybe it's, hey, let's walk over to him, see if he can put a fence up, plant some trees, some bushes, so that it's not as obvious. These are other things that we as a town, we as people that live in the town, can do. We can knock on the door and say, hey, you know, we see you've got a fine collection of Jeeps that don't look like they're running. Any chance you can think about landscaping so we can't see them? But for what the town can do for the junkyards, the eyesores, it's follow the codes. It's, if the code says, as Larry pointed out, you're only allowed to have 2 unregistered vehicles, and you've got 6, guess what? You're in violation. I'm sorry. That's enforce what we currently have on the books. That's the job of the selectmen when a complaint is brought, to make sure that the codes are being followed. That's one of their jobs. And like I said, this has come up before. It's going to come up again.
All right. We've gone through 50 minutes. Hopefully, if you have a question, we do have other candidates for the Board of Selectmen. Maybe you can ask the question for them. Otherwise, unless you want to be here till 10, I'm more than glad to stay till then. I get paid by the hour. Not really. Not really. Believe that. So, closing statement?
I know.
Anything you want to touch on that you...
No, I think I pretty much covered I love Milton. I mean, I've been here my whole life. I don't want to move, but it's getting to the point where I can't afford taxes in this town. So I've got my property on Dawson Street. I have 22 acres on Silver Street. You know, I was going to build my dream house. Now I don't know whether I'm going to build my dream house or sell it to a developer. I don't know. I just want the good old Milton back. So,
okay. Mr. Brown?
That those of you who are older graduates of Milton may remember Eva Brown. My aunt taught at Newt. They lived down in Salmon Falls Road. My own family comes from over in Milford. My grandfather was a mill hand in Milford. And I'm back in my father's state as a payback. And it's an obligation that you pay forward. And I've tried to do that for 20 years. I have a good knowledge of the committees of the town, how its departments work, and I support the work of the select board. If you think those skills are useful for the management of the town's prudential affairs, elect me. If you think Tom or Andy have a different set of skills, interests, and experience that will do the job better, vote for them. On the 14th of March, we are all going to be here, and we will all have the same community spirit and pride. And I thank you for being part of it. I really appreciate it.
Tom?
Election day, my job's easy for the one-year selectman. I know who I'm going to vote for. You folks have a difficult job. I would like to think we've got 3 good candidates, one myself and that Steve. It's whichever approach that you think will meet the needs of Milton the best. I'm a relatively new resident in Milton. Like I said, we've been here about 8 years now. Keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same result. You want something to change, you have to change what you're doing. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. By the way, the election's March 13th. If you're here at the 14th, you're a day late and $1 short, and you'll be the only one here. So.
You're on the 13th.
Yeah. Yes. On the 14th, we'll still be friends.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Thank you. I'm sorry, but, you know, with, we've now gone through 52 minutes. I'm going to move on to the next race, and there's quite a few here, so we'd like to give everybody some opportunity. Again, Board of Selectmen race, one position for a 3-year term, 2 candidates, Aaron Hutchins and Andrew Rawson. If you could please come up.
I have one request though.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's not refer to age, please. You deferred to Andy or Larry rather on age, so.
Well, as our elder statesman?
Yes.
Yes, well, I'm wise enough not to do that with a woman at this time. You're right. Certain things I have learned. One or two.
Can you please talk a little bit louder? We can't hear you too well.
I'll try to make it louder. Be careful.
Okay. Be careful what you ask for, right? All right. Again, go over the 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then we'll field questions. We can use some of the same questions we had before, but I do know that Virginia wanted to ask a question, so I'm going to make sure I get that out. Okay? Ladies first.
Thank you. My name's Erin Hutchings. I hear everybody talking a lot about how long they've lived here. I have been here less than a year. I'll be here a year in April. I didn't choose Milton. Milton chose me. When I drove through town, I had 2 houses to look at, Milton Mills and one in Milton. The dam downtown, the quaintness, the close proximity to being to Portland, Boston, and Manchester were all draws for me, and the fact that I was equally between both of my children by 30 minutes. They've fought for years over which one I like better. This way, nobody has anything to say about it. I started out, before I was even finished unpacking, coming to the meetings to meet people, to become familiar with the town. I joked around with a lot of people about becoming a mayor. Unfortunately, we didn't have a mayor. So I came before the Board of Selectmen and was appointed to the Budget Committee in May of last year. I've served on the Budget Committee since then and decided to run for selectman. I believe in transparency. I believe in the capital improvement plan that's in place to level pay everything across the board. Let's put money in accounts. Let's keep that moving. So when there's a problem in town hall where the heater's not working, we can take care of that issue. When the foundation is leaking, we can handle that problem. When Pat Smith needs a new truck so we can have our roads plowed, we have that. Police need things, the fire department, whatever's needed, the capital improvement plan is set in place to cover all of those expenses. Transparency, 91A, very important. People need to know what's going on. It's our taxpayer dollars that are funding everything in this town. We need to know where that money's going, how it's being spent accordingly. I'm a little nervous in case you can't tell. Fiscal responsibility, working with the Budget Committee, giving the residents the best bang for their buck. A lot of people I hear say, somebody moves into town, say from Massachusetts, not to pick on people from Massachusetts, but they move up to New Hampshire to have that quaint town. They want everything that we have here currently. But then they get settled in and they say, gosh, it'd be really nice if we had trash pickup or sidewalks. On and on and on. Well, now you're just making us Massachusetts, which you moved away from. That's not the way to go. I think Milton is a quaint town. Yes, it has issues downtown. I was listening to the questions and the conversation going back and forth with the other 3 candidates. The community center.
You're up to 3 minutes.
Okay,
Pause
I'll
there?
stop
Okay,
and wait
thank
for
you.
questions. Thank you.
Okay. Andy, opening statement?
Thank you, Mr. Chair or
Mr. Moderator.
Good evening, folks. Wow, nice. Thank Tom McDougall for the videoing.
So, good evening, folks. Thank you for inviting me tonight, and thank you for Mr. Moderator for hosting the candidates night for our town of Milton. For those who don't know me, my name is Andrew Rawson, and I've been privileged to serve you as selectman for the past 4 years, and I thank you for that honor. And over the past 4 years, I have accomplished or contributed to the following Board of Selectmen accomplishments. During my first year in office, I was very outspoken in my opposition to a landfill that was proposed for the town of Milton. I was a huge supporter of the builder of the community basketball court and the Culver House playground at the town beach, which as today many families enjoy together. I have worked closely with TPPA on the eradication of the European Naiad project in our lakes, and I authorized the first warrant article to fund this project. I was on the committee to solicitate and donated funds and seek the volunteers to build our new softball field behind the school. I implemented the town employees' health insurance buyback, which yields a net savings to our town of Milton over $100,000 cost savings annually. I started the second forest committee for the enjoyment and the conservation of the community. I have been a staunch supporter of our town CIP program to keep the town tax rate level. I have partnered closely with the Conservation Committee to help them achieve the goals that we all share on the town forest on Casey Road. And I know that, a lot of you folks have been talking about, our downtown. And when I became selectman 4 years ago, my number one goal was to revitalize downtown. But unfortunately, you can't make somebody paint their house. It's impossible. I tried to see if we could give tax credits for someone painting the building, but unfortunately, we couldn't do that. I talked to, the lady that has the little sales shop, Red, she likes to be called, and she offered to paint the front of that building to take rent off, and she was found on deaf ears. So, and talking about the house next to Cumbies, we're working with the gentleman, but you just, it takes time, and you just unfortunately just can't, kick somebody out of their house because it's fallen down, and so these things, we are working on, but it unfortunately it takes a little bit of time and patience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Virginia? Go ahead.
Can everybody hear better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
The question I was going to ask last time was what the candidates see as the importance and the role of land conservation in the future of Milton.
Go ahead.
I think it plays a big role. I think that we need to tie conservation and business. My belief is we need business to help to level the tax, to help to take some of the burden of the tax off of the homeowners. I think that we need to target certain businesses to bring into Milton. We don't, and this is a for instance, say want a Walmart Supercenter going on out at exit 17 or 18. But we would like a small hometown restaurant or a shop that has hiking boots and cross-country skis, that type of thing. I think together with small business, I think it plays a role with the conservation to target things. We have so much land here, beautiful. I drive around, and yes, I'm sorry, I put up signs, but I don't have the recognition that a lot of people have in town of a name. So I have to put up the signs to get my name out there. I could not get over the amount of conservation land in this town. It's tremendous. There's so many places to go hiking. I think if we need to target the businesses to go hand in hand with conservation and watch all of it grow together. Did that answer? Or did I go?
Good answer. Andy?
Thank you, Virginia. Yes, I mean, I've lived in town for over 20 years, and I think, you know, conservation is very, very important. I've sat on the conservation boards, I've sat on the forest committee boards, and right now we're working on the Casey project off of Governor's Road. The town put the 63 acres in conservation, well, you folks did, put it in conservation, and there is another warrant article this year for 5.5 acres to merge with that property to finish it, and to move forward with a great you know, hiking trails out there that families can go and enjoy, and you know, I'm happy to, you know, move that project forward and be part of it. You know, so conservation is a huge part of me. You need a happy medium, you know, with the conservation, and so yes, conservation. The conservation committee is land is very, very important. You know, on the other side of the token, as Aaron said, you know, I have worked with. We have a wonderful economical development committee, and they do work very hard. Unfortunately, you know, our infrastructure here in town is not very good, and to support, you know, a lot of businesses. You know, I'm for businesses, but I'm not for 300 condos or you know, something that's going to you know, really impact the town. I'm actually for an impact fee that if I am reelected, that I will work with the planning board on implementing an impact fee. So when we do get new business in town, the impact won't be so severe that it will be hard to take care of with our tax money. So you know, we are moving forward with some new business in town. Coming on 75, there's a new store. You know, downtown with Mike, with Ray's Marina, he's moving forward with that project. So there is business coming to town. So that's my.
Other question? Anyone? Go ahead.
Sure. So similar to other people, you know, there's a lot I've mentioned in the last round of questions about, you know, abandoned vehicles or derelict buildings, and you know, people kind of took, you know, oh well, you can't tell people to mow their lawn or to keep their grass short. But outside of, outside of the downtown, I mean, there are a lot of other properties throughout the town that are, you know, it's not a car or two, it's piles of garbage and junk cars. I live up in Milton Mills. There's somebody who's been building a house and has been living in a camper all winter long on the property. You know, so my question isn't really about the individual examples, but what do you think is within the selectmen's authority to help shape and mold those, you know, the ordinances around town, and what would you do to try to, you know, find out what's within the scope of those rules? Sorry, I kind of pushed the last part.
No problem. Aaron?
Anything covered under the ordinances currently that code enforcement can go out and handle needs to be brought to first call the code enforcement officer. You can file a complaint, bring it before the select board. Andy would know more on the exact particulars on that one than I would, as far as the actual processes and that, because I know how it has pertained to me as far as you need to first talk to the code enforcement officer, but the follow-through needs to be there. Unfortunately, the code enforcement officer is only here 2 days a week, so I'm sure that poses a problem of constant follow-up, for lack of a better word. But it needs to be addressed. There's several spots in town, you're right. Abandoned homes, junk cars. Unfortunately, in the state of New Hampshire, and I guess it's a double-edged sword, the problem with junk cars and getting the vehicles registered, it's very cheap to come down to town hall and get a vehicle registered, especially on an older vehicle. It's very inexpensive to do it. The state of New Hampshire doesn't require insurance. Those vehicles don't have to be insured, so they're able to keep large amounts of vehicles on their property. And I don't think that right now there's any way there to deal with it. That's something that we do need to look at. It needs to be addressed. It is a problem. And putting up shrubs in that, fences, is a great idea. But with the junk vehicles also comes rats and other issues that need to be addressed and dealt with.
Andy?
Thank you. It's a great question. You know, unfortunately, none of us really want to be told what to do with our stuff in our yards, and you want the least government telling you what you can and cannot do. And you know, I work very close with the code enforcement, and we've tackled some of these situations that you folks have talked about. And you know, I know it's an ongoing procedure. You know, since I've been selectman, many cease and desist orders have been given to residents. It's just, you know, like Aaron said, it's the follow through. Our code is only 2 days a week. You know, and he is a busy guy, but you know, that's no excuse. And I think moving forward that, you know, if I am reelected, you know, this seems to be, you know, a huge issue tonight, and that's something that that I could say that I could help work with. So that's where we are with that.
Other question?
My question's on traceability. In the past year, I brought up several subjects about having some type of traceability on old on old minutes and everything. When something's brought up, what happens to it? And so many times it's dropped. So I made a spreadsheet, presented that to the board, and they said no, they wouldn't use that, that they had something here that they might use in the future. But it's never happened. When are we going to start having real traceability?
That's a question that, because I'm currently not sitting on the board, I can't really answer that question. I believe in total transparency. I think the minutes from the meetings need to be posted in the...
What happens when they don't have that old information in them? We should be reviewing that old information and make sure there was closure. If there's no closure, then it's still open, and it should be presented each time for the public to know about until it is closed.
So would your question be more with respect to accountability for issues?
It is. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine.
Thanks. I need the help, Chris. Thanks.
It's my job.
I apologize, Chris. Could you...
What Lynette, let me paraphrase, is Lynette's asking for is accountability of the government, of the Board of Selectmen, of the department heads, where issues are raised in meetings, but then they're lost in the wind, they're lost in the breeze. Where is there a way of tracking those issues through the minutes or through, if you will, an ongoing agenda, and keeping those items or issues in the forefront?
Yeah. Yeah, and thanks, Lynette. It's a great question. And, you know, since I've been a selectman, I normally, you know, at the end of, you know, during my selectman's comments, I normally bring up things that I've asked in the past meeting. So, you know, unfortunately, you're not happy with the way that, you know, and transparency is huge with me. So, you know, moving forward, that's something that we can work on with some follow-throughs with what you're asking. But for myself, I always ask in my selectmen's comments from the prior week, you know, how are we doing with this? How's the sale of that?
And this is not pointed at you.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
including the whole board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Aaron, did you have further comment to address that? Or?
How would you handle something like that?
A running agenda.
Other questions? Sir.
My name's Russ Neal.
I've been here about 9 years, eight and a half, 9 years, so I guess I'm relatively new, or maybe long-term, I don't know. But, you know, I say here, listen, and a lot of the stuff that we're talking about really fixes itself if you have sound economic development. You know, properties tend to go to the highest and best use. And if you have a tax rate that is not conducive to opening business, right, you don't get that. So you get, instead of having a restaurant, you get a secondhand store with the junk and stuff around it. It's better now than it used to be. So instead of having those, you get what you get based on the tax rate that you have. And there's a lot of things. I watch this, and I believe the current board and the iterations of it going back since I've been around here has tried many to do the right thing. They tried delegation, they want the department head input, they want plans, they don't want to be running every little thing, okay? But what I see missing is leadership. I don't see direction. You know, the department heads, you delegate to the department heads to come up with a budget and submit your plans. But nobody going into that says to them, but your budget has got to come in under this number. Right? You delegate the people to begin an answer to build a firehouse. Nobody says to them, says the firehouse has got to come in for less than $2 million. Instead, we get $3 million. You know, last year I was here at this, and you actually answered the question. I asked, what do we do about getting economic development in the town? And I was thinking of a restaurant up there by Exit 17. And the answer was, is if you don't got a sewer system, you don't get a restaurant. Because a restaurant has to have a sewer system. Well, we have a sewer system that has capacity. It doesn't have a connection. It would cost about $1 million to run a sewer line from the current sewer line up to that intersection. You know, and I wish I was glib enough at the time to think of it, and I wasn't. It took me like a couple of weeks. You know, what it sounded to me like, instead of getting a $3 million firehouse, we needed a $2 million firehouse and a $1 million sewer line. And the effect on the tax rate would be the same. But we'd have something that would go a long way to fixing these things. Okay, and that's what we're not getting from the board as it is now. I know everybody's working hard and spending time, a lot of hours, and doing a lot of great things. But we're not getting from the board leadership. Okay, and to have at least a whole, the CIPs are great. But you know, what you spend the CIPs on, there should be some leadership there saying no. You know, and so my question is, after I get off my high horse, okay, what are you going to do to provide that leadership and that direction to keep, you know, from the CEO level, because that's really, as a board, you are the CEO. From the CEO level, what are you going to do to provide that direction to help the town move forward? Well, that.
Either one?
I know. We're both looking at each other.
No, I'm fine. I mean, if do you want me to go?
Go ahead first.
I might be able to help you out a little bit here.
That would be very nice of you. Thank you.
No problem, Aaron. That's what a small community is about.
That, exactly.
Russ, you're very right. Let me just, first of all, the fire station was $1.7 million. It wasn't $3 million.
Huh?
What's that? It was 2.7. I apologize. It was
140, and it was 145,000 spent the year before.
It was
that's added on to that.
Right. That we put in the warrant article. I apologize. I was thinking. So it was 2.7 million dollars. You know, the fire chief and the treasurer and the board of selectmen worked very hard. And I just wanted, and I'll get off the fire station, but they worked very hard. We worked very hard all together on getting a bond rating that saved the town a lot of money. So that's for the fire on the fire station, and I know that wasn't your question, but I just wanted to say that we did save a lot of money with their hard work.
And I understand those things. My point is the decision is not being made at the CEO level of how we best spend available resources and how to rein that in.
Right.
You know, if you ask the highway superintendent or the fire chief what they need, they're going to tell you what they want, usually, because they know they're probably not going to get all of that. right? And the way I see it, as a CEO of a company, which is what the board is, the CEO of the town, right? The CEO has got to put he puts the parameters in place. He says, look, give me your budget request. Okay, but there's not going to be any more than $2 million, and whatever, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. There's not going to be any more than $1 million. That's it. That's it. So you make it work, and you figure out how, within $1 million, you can make it work. Because we're not getting that. You know, we made in the paper, we get a big thing, oh, the tax rates, the tax rate's going down, the tax rate's going down. When then we find out that everybody's assessments, everybody's taxes went up. Right? The taxes didn't go down, taxes went up, because the assessments went through the roof.
Right.
March 1st is the deadline for abatements, by the way.
Yes.
Nobody was more surprised than you, right?
What's that? I'm sorry?
Nobody was any more surprised than you were.
I was very surprised because. So let me just say a couple of things here, Russ, because I feel your frustrations, okay? Because I'm as frustrated with you on the taxes. My taxes went up $2,000 this year. Okay, you can. It's all public information. You can come right in and look. All right, we're moving in the right direction, I think, with the taxes. We've hired a new assessor, a company called Avatar. And they've started their work last week, and I feel very strongly that they've come on and looked at the assessments, and they're going to get to work, and I feel that there's going to be some relief. All right, so let these people do their work, and again, I apologize for the assessment, even though directly it wasn't my fault. But you know, we're doing the right things with the assessing department.
I think you're missing my point.
Well,
it's not. I'm not. I mention things because it illustrates the point. And the point is that we're not getting the oversight and leadership at the CEO level.
Right. So,
okay, I mean, we bragged about the tax rate going down, but we spent more money.
Okay, this is where I have to rein it in as the moderator. So the question is leadership, the CEO level. Let's stick to answering the question, and then we do have to move on.
No, and I appreciate it, Russ. And again, I feel your frustration, but you know, the selectmen work very closely with the department heads. All right, and you know, we have a great. The employees in town are wonderful. The department heads are wonderful. And, you know, to move the town forward, I mean, for many years, Pat didn't get a new truck, okay? And it showed 2 years ago or 3 years ago when the bodies were falling off of them. You know, unfortunately, we have to spend some money, all right, for the town to move it forward. And it didn't happen for a long time. So, you know, unfortunately, I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but that's what we have to. That's what we had to do. And yeah, I know you're saying that. You know, I understand what you're saying, but you know, I want to say my leadership is there. You know, I have no problems cutting budgets. I've done it before, and you know. Any decision that I make for the town of Milton, hopefully I go home at night knowing that I've made a good decision for the whole town. I have no hidden agendas for myself, and you know that's the way I operate. And it's just any of my decision. It's for the town of Milton, and it's as a whole, and it's the way I work.
Okay.
I believe that.
Aaron?
I do get loud and excited, so don't take that as abject anger.
Aaron, can you answer that? The leadership question.
Leadership and follow through, I think all go hand in hand. I know that there's a lot of costs in the budget that we have no control over. Retirements is the biggest one, as we all know. We took a big hit. The state doesn't pay as much into the retirements anymore as what the town's having to pick up that slack. That hurt. It hurt in a big way. You know, you get it. I think we've had good leadership in town. I think maybe I hate to say this, but maybe it's time for a change. I would like that opportunity to be that change.
All right. Can we have a minute for wrap-up for either candidate? Because then we do have to move on to Budget Committee, and hopefully your question, sir, can be delved into one of the other candidates. We'll get it out. So, Aaron, close up.
I'd just like to say that I know I'm new to town. I do not have the experience. I've been on the Budget Committee for a year. Worked very hard when there were things on there that I did not know or understand or question. I had no problem setting up a meeting with those people to understand what was going on, why they needed the things that they said they needed, and I felt a little different. And we came to a common understanding on all of it. If I make a mistake, if I make a mistake on something, I own it. I do my due diligence. I go out, I find the answers to the problems, and learn from that. And I hope that y'all come out on March 13th and vote for me.
Andy?
And again, thanks, folks. You know, it's been a privilege of serving the town of Milton as a selectman for 4 years. I take my job very seriously. I love this community. I've lived here over 20 years, and I want nothing but the best for our little quaint town. You know, that's why right off the bat, the first year, I fought against the landfill. And, you know, moving forward, there is work to be done. You know, there's no question about it. But I wanna bring the board, you know, transparency, bring the board together. You know, we work very well with the department heads and all the town employees and our new town administrator. That's a godsend. And you know, I just want to continue my fight. You know, to move the town forward in a good manner. And I think I'm your candidate, so I'd appreciate your vote on March 13th.
Okay, vote for him in December, but
Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Sean Peralt, is he here?
Peralt.
I did it again, didn't I? I'm consistent, Sean. You have to give me some. Sean, come on up. Sean's running for the 1 year. There's one seat open for a 1 year position on the Budget Committee. And to remind people, there are 2 positions open for 3 years. If somebody wants to start a write-in campaign, you can do it. Please write it in that day. Don't use a stamp or stickers. That's what was used before. So we don't want that. I won't allow that. Go ahead, Sean.
Stickers, all right.
Right.
I actually didn't come last year. I ran unopposed, unfortunately, because we really need choices. We really need to have people in this town that are motivated to come and run for office instead of, you know, sitting back and just saying, you know, everything's messed up. I wasn't going to run again this year. And I spoke to my compadres and comadre that were in the budget committee with me. And, you know, I was like, why do I want this hassle? Why do I want to come in and have to argue with people or have a lively discussion, that's probably the nicer way to say some of this, about you need a new truck. I don't know if you need a new truck. Why do you need a new truck? The school board, you know, Paul and I had some very interesting looks at each other during it, but I sat there for a little while and I thought about it. I want this town to be better. We don't need the Taj Mahal. We don't need a shack either. We need something in the middle that's good for us and meets the needs that this town needs to have. When I first got into the budget committee, I was like, I'm just going to cut every budget, and I'm just going to go in there, and I'm just going to like burn the place down. That's what I'm going to do. That's my mission. But you sit there, and you talk to people, and you realize we actually do have to spend money. We can't. And I'm a libertarian. I don't believe in taxation whatsoever. However, by sitting there and actually getting involved and actually having to work with different people, you really find out that you do have to spend some money. We don't want to live in an S-hole. Pardon my French. I am French, so I guess I can say that. But we, like I said, we don't want to live in the Taj Mahal. We don't need to do that. So I came back. I ran again 1 year because my wife would kill me if I ran for 3. And she's a redhead, and you don't want to make her upset. So, you know, like I said, last year I didn't show up. I really want to show up this year in case people did have questions for me. I can say that I voted for the school budget, and we did a lot of back and forth. And I think we came up with, you know, a decrease in their budget from the previous year. And we really had a really good kismet with their team and really discussed things and got it. I didn't agree with the town's budget. I voted against it. You know, like I said, we had some really good discussions. I felt at the end of the day, we hadn't met my limit of where we wanted to increase the budget. One other person on the board agreed with me. Everyone else didn't. So be it. 7-2. We lost, whatever. The discussion went in that way. No big deal. 3 minutes are up. Probably 4 or 5 at this point.
Minute and a half. You're doing good.
Okay, good.
You're a fast talker.
Yeah, I kind of am. So yeah, I just wanted to come here and give people the opportunity to ask me questions. Maybe, what is it like to be your first year on the budget committees? Because I want to have a write-in campaign for the other 2 seats that are open. Maybe, right? It can't just be Bob and I sitting there staring at each other all day wondering what's going to happen. We need more people involved. And I'll take questions.
Anyone have a question for Sean?
Hi, Heather.
Will you attend? Will you attend the training for budget committee members in the fall?
Yes. The reason why I didn't do it this year was because I didn't expect to stay on it for another year. Otherwise, I would have been there.
Thank you.
And I don't want to waste the $300 that I think it's per person, more or less.
75 per person.
Oh, didn't want to spend 75. But yes, I will attend it, Heather.
We can sign you up.
Awesome.
Mr. Brown?
Did the Budget Committee Chair ever make clear to you how much he appreciates your time and insight?
Yes, absolutely. Some of my background, I have a master's degree in computer science from Boston University. I have an undergrad in computer science and another undergrad in psychology. So I like to learn. One of the things that really drives me in this world is to learn things, become a better person. Education is huge to me, but I think education also begins at home. We can't expect our teachers to do every single thing to teach our children. If they come home at night and they sit in front of the idiot box, they don't read, they don't do the homework, they don't do anything else, they're going to be idiots. Thank you very much. Absolutely. So S in, S out, right? You have to put some effort in order to get that knowledge and that ability to grow and everything else. And it's just as much for adults, right? You don't turn 18 or graduate from high school or college or get your doctorate or whatever, and then you're like, I'm done. I've learned everything I need to learn for the rest of my life. Can't do that. I know I'm kind of like on my soapbox right now.
And any other questions for Sean?
Tom Bellin. When I go to voting booth, I'm going to read Budget Committee endorses this warrant article.
Yep.
7-0.
Yep.
How come I'm not going to see your no vote?
No vote or, a no vote, not a nay vote?
A nay vote.
Okay, so realistically, a lot of those items are covered by the CIP. And, you know, what Aaron kind of mentioned, that this is a plan to get small pieces of money into an account. So when the roof's leaking, basement's flooding, car crashes into a wall, whatever, something happens that we need to pay for it, you're not looking at your bank account and going, whew, it's $5,000. We got $2,000 in here. What are we going to do? Okay, well, let's try to pull out of this kitty. Let's try to put out of this kitty to pay for these things. No, when you have a household or even a town, you put money aside for those rainy day incidents. Now, another one is, you know, the gas mask for the fire department, things like that. I like to cut corners and cut money, but I'm not cutting money so that these guys die. It's not going to happen.
Primarily the budget. I know that one you voted no again.
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't that reflected on the ballot?
Well, let me answer that as the moderator. When the ballot's put together, the state Secretary of State's office, election officials, allow us to put on there how the selectmen voted, like 3-0, 2-1, but they don't, like, we're not allowed to put player stats or, you know, who specifically voted for. It's limited information, and that's how they've kept it.
And one thing I can say, you know, thanks to Tom, who's done a great job of bringing this to YouTube, right? It's free, it's open. If you have an internet connection or go to the library or wherever else, you can watch all of our meetings. Some of them are very boring. Some of them are quite exciting. But everyone has that opportunity, and that's one of the biggest things. Tom, Dennis Wing, myself, really pushed to let's get this information out on the web so anyone can download the same exact stuff that we look at, right? So this year, 2017, I get all my years mixed up, I really pushed to have all the information given to us in Excel format. Because someone who can use Excel, typically before, let me back up a second, we get these giant stacks, 9, 10, 12 pages of the budget in PDF format. And you're supposed to just read through it and pick out all the things that are going wrong. What I did is get an Excel. I kept a month to month to month to month and had each one of those things. How much did it increase the month before? 2%. 12 months, it should really increase, you know, what, 100 divided by 12, 8.33 bar, more or less. That's how it should be increasing. There's also such things that happen and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you just spent 75% of the budget. It's April. What's going on? And that's when we can ask our school rep, Peg Hurd, or we can ask one of the selectmen rep and say, hey, please give us some information on what's going on with these numbers. They look very off to us, right? But to me, looking at a PDF file and a single point in time is not like looking at an Excel document where you can actually easily click a button, all the percentages are done, all the data gets meshed up, and you can easily just, what I did is I actually had red lines going through all the pieces of the Excel document that I thought were above a certain threshold that I believed I need to ask more questions about.
I appreciate that. I follow that exclusively.
Awesome.
I like the Excel and the PDF, all that stuff.
Great, I'm glad.
Quick question.
Yep.
Speaking of running as write-in for one of the 3-year candidates, that's what I'm looking to do.
Would you like to come up and use a chair?
Sure. But then I can't ask myself the question.
Well, you can ask me and then I'll ask you.
So, name is David Karpus. Oddly enough, also have a master's degree in computer science with an undergraduate in computer science.
Fantastic.
I'm down from Florida though, so mine is from down there. I guess one of the things I haven't investigated or found out is what's limiting the budget committee from, I hate to do this because a lot of people don't like doing this, compare ourselves to other towns. I'm like, businesses do this, even competitors in businesses will look at these numbers and the finances of other companies to go, how are we doing in comparison to them? Is there anything limiting the budget committee from, say, getting information from other budget committees to, say, find out, and I brought this up in the deliberative session of like finding out, are we cheap or expensive on certain things? I'm like, yeah, $1 million out of our $4 million is police, but how busy are they?
Sure.
If they're performing 1,000 calls for that amount versus another town that has a very similar budget and they're performing half the calls, our police force is cheap. It's like, but looking at just the dollar amount isn't good for judging whether or not we're expensive or inexpensive on things, making sure that the money is spent.
So if I, sorry, Mr. Moderator.
Go right ahead. You have
so if I understand your question correctly, why haven't we taken the opportunity to compare our budgets with other towns' budgets? Maybe working with or just collaborating with some of their budget committees, something of that nature?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get the best of both worlds. It's
yeah.
Like, so.
I mean, that's a fantastic idea. It absolutely is. And I did get your printout during the deliberative, and it was very informative. I started doing my own number crunching, but that's because I'm a nerd. But no, it's a fantastic idea, and why not? Why not look at towns that are similar to ours and find out how much they're paying and ask questions, right, to the town heads, the different town department heads, and say, you know, we're just comparing this, and can you just give us some insight? Because realistically, you can look at all the numbers, you can be like, oh my God, we're like so high up above them or whatever, and you just say, why? Like, can you just explain it? These guys are great. I mean, you can talk to them, and they're very forthcoming, and they'll answer your questions. I think we need to do more of that this year. I'm hoping that we can actually work a lot better with the other, you know, the town and the school before we get to that November, December, January timeframe where it's crunch time and we have X amount of days before this meeting has to start and everything else, right? So
Start looking at it now when it's not a rush.
So I can say, although one thing I think that we missed this year was actually Lynette's idea of actually having some sort of Trello board, if you're familiar with that, or some other way of tracking. What are the questions that we're actually asking these representatives? And kind of holding them accountable. The following meeting, we asked you 4 questions. What are the answers to those? We kind of lost that a lot, and then again, we did have a lot of transition between our reps for the town, so that kind of hurt us in that respect. But I think your question's spot on, and I hope that you win and you can help us implement it.
All right. Further questions from the audience?
What was his name again?
David Carpus.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, moving on. In the cemetery trustee position, one position for 3 years, 2 candidates, John Catwick and Dennis Therian. Dennis is here. Is John here? Okay.
Write in Larry Brown.
And we want to write in Larry Brown. You want to keep him busy, don't you? Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, I've lived in Milton for 4 years. I'm retired. I have time on my hands. I want to do something. I want to do my part. I don't think it's a tremendous position, but I think there's 103 cemeteries in town.
Mm-hmm.
And they all need looking at. And I'd like to be one just looking at them.
Questions for Dennis? Sean.
What's one of the biggest challenges you find? Have you done this work before? If so, what do you think if you haven't, what do you think one of the biggest challenges will be?
I think one of the biggest challenges is going to be to get volunteers to maintain the cemeteries. Nobody in the cemeteries complain. But we do go by them, and some of the stones are knocked over, some of the rock walls aren't in good shape. I enjoy pushing things. I enjoy putting a rock back up on the wall and looking at it after and saying it looks good now. And that's what the people interned would want, and their families.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. I have a small cemetery on my property with an easement. And they came around about 10 years ago, looked at it, and they were going to rake it out and clean it up. That was it. I've got stones that are broken, but never found out. I can't seem to find you. How do we repair these stones?
I'll be honest, it's all new to me, and I'll be in a learning curve.
I'm going to hold you to finding out.
Ms. Brown.
Just as a point of information, there's an old graveyard association in New Hampshire, and they give workshops. They can tell you how to appropriately restore a stone that's been broken and what not to do. So it's worth getting in touch with them. I don't have the contact information on me, but it costs $5 a year to join.
Wow.
And they do annual meetings and walk-arounds in all kinds of cemeteries and teach.
Is anybody here willing to contribute $5 to me? I'm a conservative.
Lynette?
Yes. I went to one of John's meetings, and it was the first time I'd ever been to a cemetery meeting, and I was really impressed with it. For one thing, they worked as a team, and the other thing is they were reviewing a software package that would help with the visual and status of the cemetery and who was buried where and so forth. And they allowed me to do a an analysis of the software and other similar softwares. Have you worked with softwares in any?
Well, I also am French and not very good at software yet.
That's okay. They're going to have trainers and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like it would be, you know, just by yourself or anything like that. But we also adopted, if you want to know, we also adopted a graveyard that's right next to our property also. And that's great because we can keep it up and it helps us too. Because I end up mowing all the other yards, all the other yards and stuff. And I love it because we feel like we're giving something back to our town, you know. But there is paperwork you have to fill out and get approved for it, and everything else is great. And just kind of. Again,
I'm new to this, and I just wish to contribute to the town to the best of my ability. I love our town, and it's a good place to begin.
All right. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the next race, Fire Chief. One position for a one-year term. Two candidates, Stephen DeShano and Nicholas Marie. Mr. Stephen DeShano in the room? No? Okay. Opening statement, go for it.
I think I know everybody in this room. I've been doing this for 8 years. I've been on the fire department for 19 years. I joined when I was 17. I think we've accomplished a lot in the last 8 or 9 years. We're definitely progressing. We're getting better at covering our calls. I know for a while, for the last 10 to 15 years, covering the ambulance has been our biggest concern. We finally have a system in place that's working, and I think that we need to continue to maintain that. So my plan going forward is to maintain staffing and increase staffing incrementally with the ambulance revolving fund, not through increased positions through taxation. That's pretty much how we've done it all along. As the revenue increases, we add staffing to where it's most prudent to put it based on call volume and statistics. We have what we need in place, and basically we need to maintain at this point. I'm a full-time lieutenant in the city of Rochester. I've been there for 13, 14 years, so I do this every day, 24/7, 365. You can ask my wife, I never shut it off. Like I said, I know everybody here. Most everybody knows me. I think you know where I'm coming from. I think you know my vision, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Virginia?
I understand that the fire department or fire and rescue lost some volunteers recently, and I don't know any more about it than that. Is that true? And what happened?
It's a revolving door constantly. We've recently lost Mr. Lucier, but he put his 42 years in, and I think he deserved for the second time. Another person that's been on for a long time moved to Middleton, and he put over 20 years in. So again, other than that, people come and go. We've also put, 3, 4 new people on in the last couple months. Mm-hmm. And we probably have more members than we've had in the last 5 or 6 years. Now that we have the new station in place, we can focus on retaining our membership. It's a lot easier to do that. We have a lot more we can offer them. So I'm not concerned about membership right now. I think that we need to focus on the people we have and how to keep them and get them more involved. That's the hardest part right now, is the availability of call or volunteers, even though they're paid hourly. They all work out of town. We did a survey, online survey, and I'm still getting some responses back, but out of 30 responses, the biggest reason people aren't available is work commitments and family commitments, and there's not a lot we're going to do about that other than have additional people to compensate with different schedules.
Other questions? Yeah.
What kind of help are you looking for right now? Like, what are the volunteer things you're talking about?
Basically, we need able-bodied, certifiable firefighters, meaning not crazy, but although most of us are crazy. We need people that we can send to the State Fire Academy and get certified. That's the biggest thing we're lacking.
Okay.
Not necessarily lacking, but I guess my point is we're not looking for people to direct traffic necessarily, or people to wash the truck when we get back to the station. We need people that can do the tasks that we're trained to do in the actual real grunt work, I guess is what I'm getting at. Mr. Brown.
What do you set the useful life of a new fire station at, and what would be the impact of regionalization in 10 years?
Impact of regionalization. All right. Useful life of a fire station is 50, but this is Milton, so we're going to get 75 years out of it. We got Andy 60 years out of that one.
1953.
60 something years, and it was never really designed to be a fire station. So something built to be a fire station, I don't see why that wouldn't last longer than that. Regionalization. This is New England, and we like to have our own little kingdoms, so it's going to be a challenge. I think it can work. I think we are kind of doing it already through mutual aid agreements. As everybody, or most people know, we have mutual aid agreements with Lebanon, where we first response over there, because we're much closer. That's something we've been doing forever. But because of social media and the Lebanon Voice, it became more of a issue in the forefront a few years ago. But that's nothing new. That's been going on forever. We all work together to cover the ambulances. So today we were in Lebanon doing station coverage. Farmington had a call. They knew we were in Lebanon, so they called New Durham. New Durham is struggling with manpower. Frisbee came up, but we were available to cover the next call. And we're all in communication. We all talk. It's not a formal regionalization, county-based program, but we work together. And I see that continuing. I don't see any reason that would stop. There's no way each individual town can have enough manpower or staff adequately to cover all their needed calls. So.
All right. Any further questions for Andy?
Andy.
See? Freudian slip. I'm looking at you, thinking about her. Nick.
Thanks.
That's all right. Joe.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on, library trustee position, Nancy Drew. I think she came in the room. There she is.
Hi, my name is Nancy Drew. Last year, I asked for your vote to be the one-year library trustee, and I figured I'd give it a shot, see if I liked it, and I liked it. So I'm back asking you for a vote for the 3-year position for the library trustee. I've lived in Milton since, for 55 years. I've lived, 3 children attended schools in Milton. They all went to the Milton Middle School when it was still a school. I was a teacher aide in that building. When they needed teacher aides, I was a teacher in that building. And then I, as principal, when it closed in 1991, I was the principal at the Milton Elementary. So my dedication to schools and libraries is very important to me. It's an important place. I know that The inside of the library is important for the programs that it offers. I know the outside of the library is important for the structure of the building. And over the past few years, there's been an excellent board of trustees that has made sure that the repairs are ongoing. When it first became the library, there was some damage that had been done, but with our present librarian and board of trustees, that is on the road to being really a showpiece in the state of New Hampshire. I would appreciate your vote. I know I'm the only one running for the position, so if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Just one other thing. I know there was a little bit of chit-chat at the deliberative session about what do we need libraries for anyway. Well, a library is essential for a good community, just like a school, a police force, a fire department. Those are all essential. And sure, you can get all the information on your computer at home, but we also have computers in the library for people that need to be connected to the internet. We have a lot of programs, books, magazines, resources, and our library patronage has been up tremendously over the years, thanks to the program and our library director, Betsy Baker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the next race, running for moderator, 1 year, one position, 2 years. It's myself. I'd appreciate your vote. Planning board, 2 positions for 3 years, 2 candidates, Matthew Morrow and Lynette McDougall. Matthew, see in the room? Yep, and Lynette. And this would be for the planning board.
Yes.
All right, opening statements. Lynette, you first.
Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Lynette McDougall. As you know from Tom, we've been here about 8 years. I'm originally from San Diego, California. Please don't hold that against me. I love Milton, okay? It's not my fault. I was not born here, okay? I have 5 children, two sons and 3 daughters, and I worked for 30 years in software configuration management, so I have a technical background. The reason I want to get on, well, actually, I'm 1 year, you're 3 years. No, I'm 3 years, you're 1 year, right?
No, we're both 3.
Oh, we're both 3. Never mind. Anyway, is because it's starting from the beginning. I want to give my part too, and I listen to everyone and hear all the different things we want to do for the future and everything, and I want to be a part of that. What I don't know, I find out. If I question things a lot, it's because that's in my mind, I'm going through trying to find out where is this coming from, where is this coming from, and if it's information I want, I have to go and find those things. I like things to be thorough. If there's an item on the board and we don't know if it's in a particular, if it has a particular standard or anything like that, is it a state standard, is it a local one? I want to go and see it. And if it's I was reading their minutes, the minutes from the meetings, and what I found was that quite a few things have been stopped from being built and everything because of state laws. And so what I was thinking is, gee, wouldn't it be great if we could maybe find out if we can change some of those laws to meet some, growth here in Milton that would actually help us. So that's one of the main reasons I'm doing it. And I know I'm supposed to talk longer, but that's all I can think of to say. Okay, vote for me.
Go ahead.
So, Matt Morrill, born and raised Milton Mills. Some of you might know me, some of you might not. If you've been to Cumberland Farms or Dunkin' Donuts in a snowstorm, good chance I've probably yelled at you out my window. Don't take it personally. But I'm on the planning board. I've been the guy to just sit back and complain about stuff that's going on. You can ask Andy. I've complained to him a lot about stuff. So I figured, why not just get involved and try to make a small change if I can. And that's it.
Questions for either candidate?
God, you guys are easy.
Nancy?
How many seats in the number of years? Is there
There's
only one?
there's two positions open for 3 years each.
So we're not running against each other. This is an easy way. Unless you want to write in or anything, you know, you can do that.
Mr. Long?
Just one question. Would it be possible for the planning board meetings to be videoed? Would that be a possibility?
That was one of the things I was going to talk to my husband about.
So, do you have, Lynette, any experience with planning?
I worked for 2 years with a architect, and we went through the permit processes and things like that. So I understand it. Now, whatever those processes are here, I'd have to learn. But I think that you have to start somewhere, right? And that's why I've been going backwards in the minutes and things like that, trying to catch up to see, gee, where are things standing and what is this happening? And it sounds like there's some great things happening. So why not be a part of it, you know? I know 2 years is not a lot and everything, but it gives you an idea of where to start looking.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Comments? Any final statements from either one?
Vote for me.
That's
all I got.
All right, thank you. We'll move on then. Pat, did you want to skip, or do you want your 2 seconds? I don't want to. I want them to know who you are. For the position of Public Works Director, we have. It's one position. It's a 3-year term. And Mr. Pat Smith's name is on the ballot.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate you coming out tonight. My name is Pat Smith, and I'm running for re-election to the Public Works Director position, and I'm asking for your vote on March 13th. I've been with the Public Works Department for 21 years. 18 of those years I've been the Director of Public Works. I've established a team environment resulting in high morals and high quality work. I've proven to be a good steward with the responsibilities and budgets entrusted me. I've shown my ability to manage budgets, build roads, maintain buildings, grounds, and provide superb level of maintenance for our police, fire, and highway vehicles. I pay attention to detail, and I'm conscious of the appearance of the town. I will continue to improve customer service with a response to concerns of the public, and I will call or respond in person. I have tried to keep citizens informed of the projects involving them in their neighborhoods with direct communication or the use of the media. I take great pride in our town. I love Milton. I love serving the public. This has not only been a job for me over the 21 years, it's been a lifestyle. I will continue to serve the citizens with diligence and put the interest of the town first. I appreciate the residents of Milton, and I thank you for your support. I ask you to re-elect me on March 13th. Thank you.
All right. Questions? Mr. Graham?
You know him, right?
Nope.
I just want to say, I don't really have a question. I live on Boland Road. It is a dirt mud pit. Pat does a great job keeping us on that road. It's a lot of work. And he's up there all the time checking it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Ma'am.
I also live on Boland Road. I will have to admit, I've called a few times to, let people know about the condition of the road, and almost always that day, something is done, which is awesome, so I do say thank you for that. Just wondering though, any chance that's ever gonna get paved?
Yes. Yes, I'm in charge of that.
Even just the front.
This is where you say, if they give me the money, I'll.
Well, I can get to that point.
Okay, good.
Let
I'll
me
help you.
explain how this works. We put on the warrant article every year for $290,000. With that $290,000, we try to maintain 54 miles of road. It takes about $100,000 to take a dirt road and upgrade it to a paved road for 1,500 feet. So if I did nothing but upgrade dirt roads with the $290,000, I'd never pave any of the other 50 miles of paved road. So more money would be great, but I'm not going to ask for that. So that's how that works. So what I've done is I've upgraded one dirt road it took me 3 years to do, I would say it's probably 3/4 of a mile. And I have about $300,000 into that piece of road. It's paved. It was one of our worst mud roads in town. Worked on another piece of road on Tenerife Road that had to be boxed out like your road would have to be boxed out. That was a $100,000 project for about 1,500 feet. So the money doesn't take me that far. With that $290,000 last year, we put a culvert on Townhouse Road where there was a failed culvert. That took almost the whole 290, so I didn't get a lot of work done with roads last year. This year, if the 290 passes, my goal this year is to shim and overlay some of the roads that have been neglected for the last 2 or 3 years to keep them up because we'd already spent money on those roads. So I don't want those roads to fall back into the condition that they were when I started. When I started, the roads in Milton were pretty horrible roads. I did get and this is just extra, this is a bonus, I did get a $110,000 block grant last year that was to be used for projects that weren't planned. So what I did do is I put a plan together. I talked with the engineer that works with the town, and we came up with a plan to design sidewalks and drainage for downtown Milton, starting at the Pizza Nook, working up to Silver Street, to Steeple Street, and also to go up Silver Street to Steeple Street. So that plan, that's going to be, it's already in effect. The Board of Selectmen gave me approval to go forward with that plan. Surveying's going to start, and then we'll be looking to take some of that money and fund that project to have a better looking downtown.
So Pat, there's no hope for Bowling Road.
Not in the immediate
If I answer that question, you're going to hold me to it.
Ellis Road is a lot shorter.
I don't know that road.
Ellis Road.
Any more questions? Yes.
I just want to thank you for, when we have called for Ellis Road, somebody has been out there that same day.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
On a weekend, on Tenerife Road, there was a culvert that was blocked on a Saturday, and I mentioned it to the crew at the transfer station. And I guess Butch, whoever he is, came up and dove in to get all the debris out of there.
Within an hour.
Within an hour.
That's great.
You can't ask for better.
Yeah.
I will say that I have a crew that works very hard. They give extra. They do things on their own time for the people of this town. They use their own equipment. They bring it in. I have a lot of skills in my departments up there. The addition on the building, they built it. My guys built that. They have a lot of skill, and they really make me look good. So I appreciate them guys. Yes.
I just want to compliment you and your men on all of the help you've given us veterans in Veterans Park.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, same.
Tom has a question.
Yeah, I'm behind everybody. Must see my hand.
I don't have
about how many miles in your 18 years or 21 years on Public Works have you seen paved in Milton? Are we talking 2 miles, 5 miles? 10 miles?
Yeah, I would say close to the 50. We've done everything just about once.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, we're moving on.
I appreciate you folks. I appreciate your support, and I would appreciate your vote on the 13th.
What month? Huh?
March.
Oh, I just want to make sure everybody got it right. Supervisor of the checklist, there is one position for a 4-year term. It is open. There is no one that has submitted a name for it. I have one person applied for the 6-year term, Brittany Leach. Brittany, want to come up?
She's at home with the kids.
Home with the kids. All right. Treasurer. We have one position open for a 1-year term. We have 2 candidates, Pamela Arnold and Mackenzie Campbell. If you both come up. Is Marion Trapton in the room tonight?
She's not.
She's not. Okay. Ladies first. Opening statement.
Opening statement. I apologize to everybody who's heard this before, but I've been here for 20 years being the treasurer. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm a graduate of the University of New Hampshire. I have degrees in finance and degrees in business. I graduated magna cum laude, which means high honors. I think that education is important, but I also think that experience is important too. I've served Milton in many different ways. I'm presently the treasurer for the last 2 decades. I'm also the treasurer for Stratford County, again, for the last 2 decades. At the county elections last time I was voted in, I received 34,400 votes. Of that, there was Milton residents of over 1,074. I am past member of the Budget Committee. I served 15 years on the Budget Committee. The last part of that, I served as the chairman. I am also a past treasurer for the Milton School District. I was a municipal banker for 29 years in the field of municipal investments and bonding. I was a financial advisor to many cities, towns, counties, and school districts, including the University of New Hampshire. I advised them in the field of their investments, their federal state laws, and lending issues such as bonding. In 2016, I worked with the selectmen and with the fire chief on the bonding for the present fire station. It was $2.79 million. As treasurer, I negotiated with the lending institution that financed the fire station bond, and I was able to reduce the lending fees by $5,000, and I was able to reduce the interest rate on our 16-year bond from 3.10 to 2.97. The total savings over 16 years between those two came up to over $37,000. The selectmen accepted my recommendation, and they unanimously voted to accept the terms I negotiated. As the town treasurer, I also do the investments. When you get your town report for 2017, it's going to show that the interest that I earned for the town was $20,400. The investments of the town are a major part of the treasurer's duties. I continuously include safety, liquidity, interest rates in making these investments for the town. The municipalities that I have worked for is Merrimack County, Carroll County, Stratford County, the town of Conway, as I said, the University of New Hampshire, the town of Durham, the Oyster River School District, the Alton School District, the Londonderry School District, the town of Londonderry, the Litchfield School District, the Milton School District, the Conval School District, and I can keep going, but we only got 2 minutes. So I've been a volunteer at the Farm Museum, which is up the street here, for over 2 decades. I served as trustee many times, president many times, and treasurer. I am presently the trustee and treasurer of the museum. I have served on the board of directors of the Rochester Visiting Nurses Association for many years, and I served on the board of Stratford County 4-H for many years. And to change to a little bit of a different thing, I started back in 2005 providing the selectmen with a monthly treasurer's report. This was not a request by them, but it was an initiative by me to keep them well-informed. This is the report I give to them every single month, to the selectmen, to the bookkeeper, and to our financial consultant. It's a monthly treasurer's report that notes each account by name, account number, all the activity for the month, and the ending balance. Included in this report they received is where the bank is located that has this account. I provide the same information to the budget committee on a quarterly basis, except I take out the account numbers. That's the end of my 2 minutes, I think.
It certainly is.
Was it over?
Well, I would never.
You're such a gentleman.
Oh yes, I know when I know where to stack my cards. I just want to say, both of these candidates are also running for the school district treasurer position. So please keep that in mind as you get ready to ask them questions and/or hear their statements. Go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Campbell. I am your current school district treasurer. I have 2 years of successful experience of serving as your elected school district treasurer, and wish to pardon me, I'm also nervous because you guys are great, and I don't want to let you down. But in all honesty, I wish to continue serving at this position, so I kindly ask you for your vote there. I've run unsuccessfully for the past 2 years to serve as your town treasurer. I want to bring my penchant for finances to this position. A good example as to why it would be a great choice are the recent successes I've had down at the Milton Water District. I was asked to consult on their books. I handed my diagnosis to their Board of Commissioners, and it included rectifying over 2 years of erroneous accounting, which is what we're working on now. We're about 6 months through that. In my school district treasurer's position, I also hand a monthly treasurer's report to the financial manager, Nathan Castle, who reports that information not only to the town, but the school board directly. The point of rectifying the erroneous accounting at the water district was to bring a current match between the books and the bank accounts. Having fully reconciled books is an important attribute of having a financially successful organization. It's imperative that this information is readily available to selectmen. I intend to integrate an electronic, cost-effective system to do this, or continue where any system or protocols have already been established. To achieve these goals, I will further utilize or implement cost-effective electronic financial controls and systems. Where I have already done so at the Water District, I have further utilized technology readily available there as well. It's what I'm good at. I've done accounting since I was in high school. I took college level accounting there. My guidance counselor said I would be interested in it. Lo and behold, I was. And it never stopped. I went to Great Bay where I achieved an associate's level in accounting, transferred my credits to Southern New Hampshire, and then I fell in love and moved to Milton. So my education's on hold, but my service and penchant for finances, it isn't over. And I learn every day, going down to the Water District, putting in the time. Every weekend, I'm rectifying their books, trying to get to the bottom of that as well. I'm also a full-time debt collector. I've learned to fiercely negotiate and defend my clients, so I assume the responsibility that each one of you will be my clients while serving in this role as well. If elected, I will take this role and serve in it with the qualities that the town of Milton deserves: integrity, community respect, and transparency. I would formally like to ask for your votes and thank you for your time this evening.
Very good. Questions, comments? Anyone? Quiet.
They're tired. We're all tired.
You're all tired.
But I haven't had dinner yet.
I haven't either.
Yeah, so.
Mr. Brown.
One question. Could either or both of you distinguish between the duties of a prudent man, a prudent investor, and the fiduciary responsibilities of a town treasurer?
I just have to distinguish between the duties of a water district treasurer and a bookkeeper. I'm fairly well informed of what each of these roles takes, and I'm fully committed to that.
The state of New Hampshire, oh, excuse me, you had your hand up.
Well, go ahead. You have to answer Larry's question first.
Okay, is that all right? Sure. Okay. State of New Hampshire is prudent man law. And basically what it says is you should not do anything that you wouldn't do with your own funds. And I think we particularly look at this when we look at the town's funds. Again, the state of New Hampshire sets down exactly what we can do. We cannot put money in credit unions and things like that, but it tells us exactly it has to be federally insured banks, U.S. government treasuries, agencies of the U.S. government, things like that. So yeah, I think it's easy to be a prudent man when you look at that statute because it sets it right down for you. You do get lots of calls from people who want to make you a ton of money for the town. And they're from out of state. They have no idea what we can do and can't do here. So I think prudent, to me, is easy because the state statute states exactly what it is.
Okay. All right. You had a question, ma'am.
Why did they hire you to fix the finances down at the water? What's going on there?
They had a state audit, and the auditor had a very difficult time piecing together what was going on. I was simply brought in to consult on that alone. I handed my diagnosis to the commissioner board of commissioners, and they chose to hire me for the position to rectify the situation.
Okay. One of the this is the one of the only positions that I did actually have a pre-written question submitted. Because somebody brought up Bill Belichick earlier, and he says this goes to his line of thought. What does it mean being a team player? And can either of you give an example of something that's occurred in the last year?
Yeah, I'd glad to do that. As we know, Belichick, Bill, he's actually a winning team player himself, and so it means you win. You all win. Not one person wins, but all the people win. And I want to go back to talk about the fact that I worked with the selectmen and with Nick to get the fire station funded. Nick built it, and I had the fun of doing the funding with him. I remember when Tom Gray said in the selectmen's meeting, said thank you to us, that I said, gee, it was really great fun. And Nick says, no, it wasn't fun. But, so it was a team effort getting the financing done. We spent a lot of time. We talked to a lot of different people. We went down a lot of bunny trails. No, that doesn't work. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. And Nick is the one that came up with the company that we finally chose. When we chose them, they came back with numbers that we thought were our final numbers. And you always want to say, well, is that your final answer? And so I went back, and like I said, I went through all the lending fees that were going to be on our contract, and I pointed out to them the different fees that were not applicable to the town of Milton, and I asked them to take them out, and they did. And then I also said, is this the best rate, 3.10, that you could give us? And they said, well, let us sharpen our pencil a little bit. And to our surprise, and we're really very happy, came back with 2.97. And like I said, we saved $5,000 on our fees, and we saved $37,000 in interest. And when they gave me that number, I said to myself, that's 6 years of my taxes that I don't have to worry about. So I think, you know, being part of a team, it was the selectmen, but it started with the voters actually passing that bond issue. So it was the selectmen, the voters, it was Nick. And I think if you do work together as a team, there is a win at the end of it.
Mr. Campbell.
Bill Belichick knows that to be a team player is to trust in your teammates and to commit to being a team. And I think that's something that I really want to do for the town of Milton, is commit myself to being a part of their team and achieving the highest, most efficient results possible. In order to do that, you have to insert yourself in other places and build trust. The school district was a great place to start. My team there wants me to come back next year and has wished for my success in this campaign. So I want to give them that again. And I want to give it to the town this year, and the next year, and the year after that. And I want to learn and I want to grow. There's been a lot of questions about leadership tonight, and a memorable quote, leadership is learning. So I want to learn with the town and perform highly for the town, just as I do in everything else in my life. I have 4 children who I spend, Karen could attest, hours with, and I want to show them, you know, what it's like to serve the community too.
All right, good. Second question that was submitted, what does transparency mean to you? And I'll let you go first.
Transparency can be a lot of things. I think it's about being open and making yourself available to other people, answering questions truthfully, both honesty and having evidence to back it up as well. When I apply for a job, I bring examples of my work. Tonight I have my resume with me if anyone wants to see it. So, transparency is more than saying it's doing, and I do transparency, and I show it in what I do.
I think transparency in finance is really important. One of the reports that I do for the selectmen is all the activity we have for the whole month in the general fund, and it ties back to the bank statements. I take each one of these as 22 accounts, as I said in my beginning statement, that I go down through every single account, I list them on a spreadsheet for the selectmen, and I start out with what is the name on the account, example, ambulance fund, and then the account numbers, how much interest it earns, what the expenses were for the month, and what the ending balance is. The very last column tells them what bank that money is in. Bob Carrier also gets the same report on a quarterly basis, but it has every single account in every single bank, every single dollar that we have. It's a report that I developed back, like I said, in 2005. It wasn't asked of me. It was my initiative to make sure the selectmen had all the information that they needed.
All right. Any further questions? Ma'am.
Matt, do you have the voted endorsement of the school board?
I don't want to speak on their behalf. Of the school board or my team that I work with at the SAU? Yes, I do. They just wished me luck the other day.
Other questions? Final statements to wrap up?
Bill Belichick is awesome. Go Pats. Do your job. He also picked the greatest team player of all time. I want you guys to pick the greatest team player of all time. And I want to upgrade everything. I just want to bring what I have to offer. And if there's learning to do, so be it.
As I stated at the last election for the county treasurer, I received over 34,000 votes, which included 1,000 votes at least from the voters here in Milton. I'd like the same 1,000 voters to come out and vote again for me. You need someone to watch over the town's funds and someone to be a second set of eyes on the town's books.
All right. Thank you. And we'll move along.
School district?
As I said, unless you think it's a totally different presentation for school district?
It is for me.
I'm fine to rebuttal if there's...
Okay, go for it.
I'm not going to go through the education matters again. I'm not going to go through the experience. What I would like to note is the various schools that I have worked for. Besides, I went through Merrimack County, Carroll County. I've worked with the town of Durham and the Oyster River School District. In the Oyster River School District, it's Durham, Lee, Madbury, and Barrington. I've worked with the Alton School District, and in the Conval, which is a very large school district down in Peterborough, it has the town of Antrim, Francistown, Greenfield, Hancock, and Dublin. Again, I think I'd like to explain my experience when I was previously I was a school district treasurer. During that time, I balanced the previous treasurer's reports that were out of balance when I went into the office. I provided support to the superintendent and the business administrator when they were working on their bond issue. The same thing I did with Nick and with the selectmen here. I developed a spreadsheet for the school board's monthly meetings. I went to a meeting and they picked up a whole sheets of papers, and the chairman said, "Can you take all of these reports and make one report for me?" And so I did. And this is what I developed. You'll note this is the one that they're currently using. It's the same thing that I developed for them. And if you look at the towns, one, it's the same thing that I report for the town. So it's nice to see that things and procedures that I put in place are still there. So I'd like to continue working with the school district as I had before.
May I rebuttal?
Sure.
Just a little history on how I earned that position. I lost to Pam my first year running for the town treasurer. The superintendent had caught wind of someone looking to be the town treasurer because of a situation, or excuse me, school district treasurer, because of a situation that had removed that treasurer. They interviewed me, they liked what they saw, and they brought me on board. And then I ran for election, and I was reelected. In terms of the spreadsheet she just showed you, I 100% start from scratch in everything I do. I make my own worksheets. If it's similar, it's not intended. And I know that because the last treasurer's work looked nothing like that.
All right. Questions? School district treasurer position?
I just
Ms.
have.
Brown.
Pam, why did you decide to stop being a school district treasurer?
The way I started is a better way to start with it. The treasurer of the school district resigned. And at the time, I was working on the budget committee, and the superintendent called me up and he said, "We've got a terrible situation here. Could you come in and help us out?" And I said, "Yes, I would." And he says, "Well, how much money do you want?" And I said, "I won't take any money from the school district." So I did not take any salary. And I stayed until we got these things straightened out exactly like I showed you, doing things for the school board so they could understand what was going on. In the middle of that, they were talking about a school bond issue. And so I wrote manuals for both the superintendent and the school business administrator on all the steps, which Nick knows we go through when we do a bond issue. At the time, I was a banker. My fee for that would have been $15,000 just to do that for a school district. And that's these other school districts that I talked to you about, that's what they paid. So we went through that, we got the new forms done for them. And I said to them at the time that you really need to get somebody in here who can spend more time on this. And at that point, they agreed. When I took the job, I only took it until to get them straightened out and to get somebody new in place. And I trained the new person that came in. Yeah, but I was working a lot of hours, Karen.
I just was
Yeah.
curious why you
Yeah.
stepped down from it if you liked it so much.
I loved it. I really loved it. But I also liked being home at night. Yeah. I worked in Concord, and it was like a 70-hour-a-week job. And I really liked it. But I liked helping out the school, and it was nice to see that they could use the things that I could donate to them. Again, I did not take any salary.
Other questions, comments? All right, we're going on 2.5 hours now, so I'd like to move along if we could and finish up with the school board members.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you so much, everyone.
School board members, there's 2 positions open for 1 year. There are 4 candidates: Laura Noseworthy, Melissa Brown, Kelly Therian, and Lynette McDougall.
Somebody else, I just gathered.
Hey, Lynette.
I know I am.
Lynette, come on down.
That's LAD 2.
Who's that?
Can you repeat those names?
Oh, yes. Laura Noseworthy, Melissa Brown, Kelly Therian, and Lynette McDougall. Okay, and starting, if you're ready, starting from my immediate right, and maybe an opening 2 or 3 minute opening statement, who you are and why you're running for this position.
I'm Kelly Therian. I live on Ellis Road in Milton, and I've been here for 4 years. I've never run for anything. But my grandkids are going to the elementary school over here, and I've been volunteering in Jackson's class. And I just see a few things that and you know what, my husband looked up on the internet for me so I could kind of read some of the minutes at the school board meeting, and there really wasn't much there to read about, so I could educate myself as to what's going on. But yeah, I just think I would like to join the school board and see what I can do to help them out.
All right. Go ahead, Laura.
I'm Laura Noseworthy, if no one knows me. I've currently been a resident for Milton, or in Milton, sorry, for 16 years. I'm a member and the treasurer and the business coordinator for Milton PTA. I'm also one of the co-coordinators for the End 60 Hours of Hunger program for Milton. I was the school clerk for 2017. I was the school board secretary from August 2016 until October 2017. I'm currently an interim school board member since October 2017. I do have 2 children that attend Newt. My daughter is a senior, will graduate this year. I have a son that's in 7th grade. They've attended the Milton School since kindergarten. And I also work at Stratford County Jail. I've been there for 22 years in May. I feel that I'm a good fit for the school board. I'm a good problem solver. I come up with solutions when there's an issue that's been put against in front of us. I wish to continue to work with the school board, to be transparent, to be a team player, to work closely with the superintendent and the administrator of the schools, to encourage or to continue to encourage open dialogue with the board. I think it's important that the board takes input from all the groups and weighs all the facts that come before us to make a decision that best fits everybody. Looking at the needs of the students, the teachers, the staff, the building, the town when making decisions. Working with the department heads, the administrators, the boards to present a reasonable budget to the budget committee during budget season. Maintaining and improving the buildings, the grounds of the school. Being involved, asking the questions. Being prepared for the school board meetings. Reviewing my packet that I get the week prior. Preparing any questions that I have. So when I go into the meeting and the subject comes up, I can ask those questions. If there's any clarifying things that need to be asked. Being part of the committees that we're assigned to, and representing the board when I'm at those committees and bringing that information back to the board so they're informed of what's going on. Thinking outside of the box, bringing up new ideas that could be considered to better handle situations, better ways to address problems that the district's having. Looking at ways to save the taxpayers money through grants that we can get. Being creative, looking at ways to improve on what we're already doing. Identifying needs early so that money can be requested to come from trust funds to save for future needs like buses and that kind of stuff, vehicles that need to be replaced down the line. So, thank you.
My name is Melissa Brown. We moved to Milton last year. I live in Milton Mills. Moved to town, and everyone said to me, great town, stay away from the schools. Well, that's not me. So, I figured out how I can be helpful. There was an opening on the school board, and I applied. My background is that I'm an attorney. I handle a lot of education law. I am not one to keep my mouth quiet if I have a problem with something. Being part of that means I know how to address a problem. I can argue with my partners on the school board, but I also know how to do that and be collegial. I've taken the time to speak with teachers. I've taken the time to speak with a lot of parents. And there are a lot of issues. However, we have some great staff. We have a great principal that we have at the high school and middle school. The vice principal over at the elementary school has been amazing at getting my 2 children acclimated to the school system. And as an attorney, I can sit up here and talk to you all night. However, I travel an hour and a half each way to work every day. I still make sure I'm here for every meeting. I'm still on the grant committee and the policy committee. I'm invested in this town. I'm invested in our school system. And I believe my experience can go a long way with getting the board and getting the school system where everybody wants it to be.
All right, thank you. Lynette.
I bow to all these ladies right now. I think they're fantastic in all the things they have to offer and to give. It's obvious that they are in tune with everything that's going on there, and I think that's wonderful. That's what this town needs. My background is in different areas, software and things of that sort. And I've worked as an educational clerk and everything within this school district. But I can't offer all the things these ladies do. And I'm very honest when I say these things. But I can offer maybe a new look outside the box and adventures that we can go on with these kids. And I can do that on a board or off a board. I see so many things. I'm reading their minutes, and like you said, I couldn't see a lot in the minutes, but one thing that spoke to me was they were looking at security. And in today's society, that's an important thing because it hits every town now, small towns. And I was happy to see that there. When I was going to school, one of the things we had were self-defense classes for kids. And that's something that we don't have anymore because it costs too much. But I'm finding that all these different things that we can teach our children and take into life, we can find grants that can go with these things, all kinds of things that aren't going to hit our taxpayer. I think we have a wonderful principal now. You're all completely right. He's absolutely wonderful. And from what I hear from my husband, which I hear every time when he was at the budget meetings, is how great he handled the budget and how he cut and cut and cut. And I think that's all I can offer you guys. Thank you.
Questions? Hopefully that everyone can answer.
Just how many positions are there? What terms?
There are 2 positions open for a 1-year term.
So we're replacing Lou's position and Stephanie Berry's positions who are filling.
And no one can replace Lou, you know that.
Ma'am.
I'm a resident of Milton. I've lived here for a little over 13 years. I have 5 children, girls that have all come through the Milton School District. Something I'm looking at that I've been watching for a while is I feel like a lack of support for our teachers. I'm wondering what you guys plan on doing and what you might need from us as parents to help give some really solid support to these teachers so we can have their backs, so we can stop some of the disciplinary problems, focus on some safety, and just change a few things inside the school.
Anyone? Ideas?
I can say, unfortunately, our principal at the high school, she is new this year. We had a principal that was in place for 2 years that pretty much turned a blind eye to some situations. He had his favorites, and he didn't discipline the kids. He also had his favorites with staff. So now our new principal is coming in, and she doesn't want to be known as, I can't say that word, to be hard, but she kind of has to be hard to set the example. So I'm sure you guys all saw the Facebook post last week, which I'm not going to mention because I'm sure you read it. But that's the stuff she's up against.
I probably had the biggest comment on there.
You probably did. But we do support her, and she comes to the board, and she does give her input. We emailed each other, and she shared emails from parents, and parents do have her back and applaud her and how she handled the situation. And she needs to know that you guys are supporting her, whether you're saying it to her face or you're sending her private email. She needs to feel that. Because I would feel horrible thinking that I wasn't doing my job if I was in her situation. So that's how you can support her, by sending her emails and telling her. And volunteering in the schools is important too.
And that was made known to us about the lack of respect for our teachers. We were fortunate enough to even have some students come and tell us, and we took immediate steps. We made it clear that we backed her and her disciplinary problems 100%. She has taken some really strong steps, and the school board has backed her. We have sat down with our policies to make sure that our policies are right on point. And there is a fine line between security and going over the top. And I think Ms. Radowitz has really walked that line very well, even in light of everybody's upset over the car situation. However, the school board has been backing her to take control of the school. And what parents can do, be involved. When you get a call from the principal saying that your child did something, really look into it. because I can tell you that Ms. Radowitz does not call you for no reason at all. She investigates.
For the younger classes, just in the kindergarten, when I'm there, there's 21 kids in each of the kindergarten classes, and there's one teacher and there's one aide full-time, and then the volunteers. And I'll tell you what, those teachers hustle with 21 kids. Little kids they're trying to teach how to read and write. And I there was one little guy that came in, and I went over and talked to him, and his name was, well, I shouldn't tell you his name, but
Don't do that.
anyway, and then this woman came over, and she said to me, oh, that's my student. And I said, oh, well, what's his name? And she told me his name, and she said to me, she said, well, we're just getting him to behave. That's, I said, what? He's just here to behave. He's just here for this section of the school. And with 2 teachers having 21 children, now I know that this is probably a touchy subject, but, and then to have one adult woman for one little 5-year-old boy is uneven. It's uneven. So I would say to volunteer if you can volunteer, and maybe we need to look at how we're divvying up the teaching.
I'm just listening to what my children are coming home and telling me, and thankfully, knock on wood, not that it won't happen, I'm not there for disciplinary problems, thankfully, but I'm listening to what they're telling me and what they're coming home and they're saying to me about how our teachers are treated and what's going on and what's being done about it. I can tell Ms. Radowitz is cleaning house, and I'm for it and I love it. I just want those teachers to get as much support as we're giving our school board, and then our school board and superintendents are giving Ms. Radowitz. I'd like to see that trickle down to our teachers getting that much support.
Lynette, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, I do, please.
And then I'm going to...
Okay. One of the things I noticed is at every one of the boards we have in this town, this is the most people I've ever seen at a board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
At our school boards, I see 1, 2 people there. One thing that spurred me was a parent. I went into a place and she worked there, and she says, oh, I recognize you from the school. This was a while back. And she told me about a teacher that she had an involvement with, and that her child was mistreated. And she told me how the child was mistreated. Well, me being analytical, I like to hear both sides, okay? So I asked the teacher, I didn't say names or anything else, was there an incident like this? And she said yes. And she says, everything would have been fine if the girl cussed at me up and down. That's not acceptable. If we have a principal that's saying no more cussing, it's not tolerated. And I know that's old-fashioned, and I know I'm old-fashioned that way, but maybe that's what we need. Yes. But the biggest thing we need are the parents. Mm-hmm. Where are you guys? You're teaching your children. We're teaching your children. Not we, you guys. But the whole point is there has to be a team effort. And that's what we're missing. We are teaming up on all these other boards. Team up here. I'd love to see something like this with parents in a board meeting. Oh my gosh, the things you could accomplish. The kids would know, hey, I'm accountable at home and here. Mm-hmm. There's a backup system. Anyway, just from having 5 kids.
You had a question, ma'am?
Not so much, well, maybe a question, but more of a statement, just that I am a kindergarten parent, and I just know that I have tried to volunteer, and it's not always an easy process. A couple of times I was told I couldn't volunteer because I wasn't able to do the training at the beginning of the year. And I had talked to the principal twice about trying to set up future trainings because I missed the first one and was unable to do that. And I know there was 3 or 4 other parents that were in the same boat because they missed the one. They missed out on a whole year's volunteer opportunities. So
don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah,
Find another way.
Again
Talk with more people. Yeah.
Being part of PTA, we can bring on that issue up. We did have two meetings at the beginning of the year for because they wanted, like, she was going to share a name. That was part of the training that they want, that it's not, you're not there to share names, you're there to.
Then share that information with parents. So parents know
we'll bring it back up to John. There's other PTA members in the group, they can also say that.
There's a PTA meeting March 4th, isn't there?
That meeting was canceled.
Oh, it was canceled.
We just had a meeting to cover the end of the snow.
Okay.
In lieu of the recent school shootings, I've heard a lot or seen a lot on Facebook about bullying. Is it really a substantial problem in the schools? And if it is, what are we doing about it?
Unfortunately, I think we're always going to have a bullying problem. It was in front of the board last year. I don't know if you guys, it was at least one whole meeting we discussed bullying. Unfortunately, it starts at home in teaching your kids how to talk to others, you know. Not everyone is the same as us. But it is something that we do look at. But
I think that we should not look at it. I think we should do something about it.
Right.
Yes. We keep looking at it and saying we're going to get to it, and now we're still feeling the results of it. So if we're working as a team, maybe we can have classes, share information on how to work with kids that maybe don't know how to socialize. Do the positive, not the negative. Because these are great kids we're raising, well, you guys are raising here. I've already raised mine. But, you know, these are great kids. Why not make them good citizens?
I think, too, for kids, they need to have an absolute of right and wrong. There's no gray areas. You can't just say one swear word and let it go. No, that's wrong. Kids today don't know the difference between right and wrong. And it's not for the teachers, the school board, or to teach that, but it's got to that point. Because if they're not going to be taught at home, then when they come to school, they know that if I do something wrong, there's going to be a consequence. It's good that kids have boundaries. They need that, and they've lost that today. Not that I want to raise all those kids. That's not our job. But if you do it slowly and you just start to almost, I don't want to say you need to teach these kids how to rethink, but you almost have to do that.
You do.
You know what? I get away with something at home. I get away with that wherever I am. But when I come through these doors at Milton School, I'm going to respect the teachers. I'm going to respect the other kids, and I'm going to toe the line. Or you know what? There's going to be a consequence, and it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing for these kids when they get out on their own. You know, I think that there just has to be a definite right and wrong that needs to be implemented. I think it's healthy for the kids, whether they're in kindergarten, where my little Jackson is, or whether they're in 12th grade. Mm-hmm. It's so basic. I think we've gotten away from the basics of just who we are. And the kids need to be taught. And I know it's not the schools. Schools are not parents. And unfortunately, parents have dropped the ball on a lot of these kids. I mean, my heart goes out to the kids when it comes to they're not dressed properly. A lot of these kids aren't dressed properly. A lot of these kids come from broken homes. The first half hour I was in that little kindergarten class, one little girl came up to me and she just grabbed right onto me. She never saw me, but she grabbed right onto me. Okay, that's great. I love kids. So she says to me, "Are you going to come tomorrow?" I said, "No, blank." It's Friday and tomorrow's Saturday. Oh, am I going to be at my mother's and my father's? I said, "Gee, I don't know, but I'm going to be here next Friday." And another little kid, the teacher says, I'm just giving you examples of how broken our kids are today. A lot of them, not all of them, but a majority of them. I was in a half hour, 30 minutes, and a little kid's running around, a little boy, and the teacher says, "Blank, why don't you have your shoes on?" "Oh, I left my shoes at Dad's." You know, because he probably came from his mother's and not his father's. So they need some consistency. and we can give it to them at school, and I think we can do that if we get together. And the volunteers that come in love on these kids. They're starving for love.
That's not allowed. You can't touch them. You can't do.
Oh,
anything.
yes, you can.
No.
One little, well, I don't know about that.
No.
Larry?
There's so many laws.
No disrespect intended to those who have not been through the battle. But for those of you who have been on the board and know some of the drill, could you talk about the requirements and the multiple hoops that volunteers are faced with in today's world, and also the incredible range of behaviors and responsibilities you face in the IEP process? You have 30 seconds.
Melissa talk. She gets to talk.
Okay, first of all, in this day and age, in order to volunteer, you have to do a query check. And that is because we need to make sure that we don't have certain offenders in our school system. And that takes anywhere from 30, 60 days to come back. And then there is the training process. Behaviors can range from a child needing 2 people to work with them at one time. And again, that costs money. IEPs are known as individual education plans. Those are for children with special needs. And those are drafted with the special ed department. So volunteers can come in. They may or may not be able to work with children on an IEP. It all depends, and they do try to match up the volunteers in the classroom as best as possible. But I would like to respond to Karen's question about the bullying. It is an issue that I personally take very serious, okay? Being somebody who had been attempted to be bullied on the Facebook because of certain things, okay? It starts with parents trying to bully behind the screen. How easy is it for a teenager when they're on their computer to get up and stop bullying? Parents need to look at what's going on. I got a call. My niece was in the bathroom in Rochester crying. She's 15 because she was bullied. Me being the crazy aunt, I called up the superintendent of Rochester. Okay? No child should have to be crying in a bathroom because they're being bullied. Teachers need to be educated on spotting this because they have, we average 17 kids in a classroom. They have to watch out for that. We've already started talking about getting the training in for our teachers. We've been looking at different programs. So bullying is a huge issue, and it's something I take serious. And I don't think any child should have to suffer the bullying.
Ma'am.
I guess I'm here as a parent who's put in many hours volunteering since kindergarten. I have a 7th grader now and a 5th grader. And it doesn't change the other parents from not being accountable for their children when they do something or when they treat teachers awful. And the teacher can't really do anything or stick up for themselves for lack of support or being afraid of other parents attacking. And I guess I'm looking for people to hold parents accountable when your child is really being a huge distraction to a classroom and a teacher has to focus all of their attention on that one child but are afraid of a parent going nuts. And I guess that's kind of what I'm here looking for tonight because I have put in my hours and it hasn't changed and it's very frustrating when you have kids that want to learn.
I share your frustration. Let me tell you a story about my youngest son. Just what you're saying. You don't know what, I get a call from a teacher saying he's disruptive in class and everything. So what I did is I didn't tell him and I showed up at school and I sat in the back of the class. Now they just happened to have a substitute teacher and he sat at a desk with 5 other boys. And they were acting up and everything else. So I very quietly went up, brought a chair and sat next to him and showed him what he was supposed to be doing. And then the other kids continued to act up. And I said, I know your mothers. And that's all it took. Participation of one.
So that was your child?
That was my child.
Okay, well, this is, I mean, that's great.
Right. But we lived in a small town like this. I called every one of those kids' parents. We have to watch out for each other's kids.
You can't do that.
So, right. I guess my point is
Why can't you watch out for everybody else's kids?
Well, because I know in particular instances when my child has been the target of some really awful behavior, I'm not even allowed to know who my child will tell me, but when I go to the administrators and I say, this is what's happening, this is what I'm being told.
Have you gone to the school board?
Oh yeah. Oh, we don't.
Really?
This will take, one of my daughters was transferred out of Milton School District and is on a tuition student to another town because of we can't even, it would take hours, dear. Like, it would take hours. But like, we're not even allowed to know certain things. We're not allowed to know if the school talks to them.
We're here asking for parents to go and sit with their kids. That's what I'm saying.
And that's what I'm saying too.
Yeah.
That's what you have to have.
Are we allowed to do
But we're not that parent though, so I'm looking for support of school board members that are going to address these parents whose kids are a constant problem.
Well,
Because
I'm for that.
Because the parent is the problem.
Because the parent
not
isn't being
necessarily the
accountable
child.
for their child's actions, and it's not the school's fault or problem when a kid is continuously
Disrupting
the parent
class.
has to be accountable. In the school,
No one else learns,
hold them accountable.
right?
When they can't do something to a child because the parent refuses to let them be punished, someone has to be held accountable.
This is
parent.
This is where the child, depending on the age, has to be told that there is a right and a wrong, and there's going to be a consequence. So if that child will not settle down and allow the others to learn, then he can either go sit in the hall.
The teachers?
No, not the teachers.
No. The teachers have a hard time getting support because they're afraid that that child's parent is gonna cause a stink. That's just what's going on, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what I'm just saying
Well, you
is,
know what? Then there has to be conversation with that parent to say, your child is not the only one in this class. I have 20 other kids that I am trying to teach, and bring it back to the parent.
What we used to have at our school, I don't mean to interrupt.
No,
you,
go
sorry,
ahead.
honey. What we used to have is parenting classes, and it wasn't for just, I know, big deal, right? You're a good parent already. We all are. We all try. But the whole thing is everybody went. It was
requirement?
It was a requirement in that town where I lived, which wasn't bad because we all learned something. We learned who each other was, and we started working together. It's really easy for us all to say what's wrong. We got to do stuff that's going to, make a change, and we can't make a change without looking for the positive.
Absolutely.
So if we can form some kind of unity where you do the positive, you're going to help that parent and help the child.
Melissa, can I ask your opinion on this?
Yes. Okay, first of all, I do understand what you're saying. And part of our previous meetings has been that we are backing our teachers. We've made that clear. However, that doesn't go blindly. We investigate the situation. And if when a teacher is wrong, the teacher will suffer the penalty. But we are backing the teachers. We are not allowing them to be disrespected, and we're taking hard lines about them. We're also not going to break the law by putting a child in the hallway, okay? We have to follow the law in everything we do. If a child is acting up, there's probably a behavior issue, and we need to find out what is the reason behind that. Does this child have a reason that they're acting up? Do they need to be on an IEP, a 504 plan? You can't just blindly discipline children that aren't your children by putting them out in the hallway. That's a violation of the law. But I do believe in standing behind the teachers. I will tell you, my own son, we got a call, he was acting up on the bus. I was appalled. What do? I made my son sit in the front row. Then bus driver looked at me and she said, okay, well, I need the first couple rows because different kids do different things. I said, okay, my child is in the first 5 rows for the rest of the year. And she looked at me. And I'm holding through to that. As a parent, when I'm told that my child does something wrong, I'm going to follow through. I'm going to call the teacher if there's something wrong. I'm going to ask the teacher what's going on. And I think as a school board, we are backing the teachers because it needs to stop.
And I don't feel like the school board's not, just to be clear, I feel like that I've heard good things from the school board backing teachers. I've heard all positive. I, however, haven't felt like teachers are super comfortable saying how they really are handling situations. They'd be busy all day. They'd be disciplining all day. And I think that it gets ignored a lot for lack of I don't know what I'm trying to say.
We have asked that the teachers address us and let us, if there are specific problems, I have specifically gone over to the elementary and had spoken to teachers and said, please, if there's an issue, let us know, because unless someone comes to a board meeting, we have no idea, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've asked the teachers, and the ones that have approached me, some of them have approached me off the side and will tell me things that are going on, and I will bring that up.
And again, I think it goes to the principal being new and treading lightly, but trying to make a difference. So I feel like it's a lot for her this year, but I want to support our teachers, that's all.
I don't know why it's taken me so long to get, maybe because I was just really in the thick of having 5 daughters, why it's taken me so long to get to PTA meetings and school boards and meet candidates and stuff like that. I've made a commitment to being here all the time now and talking to teachers on a regular basis. And I've been appalled at what I've been being told, not just by my children, but also teachers. And you know, we're not here to name names or anything like that, but I've had teachers express how they just want to love on these kids and they're trying to parent these classes and do their job and do it well, to be sworn at and disrespect. I can't even believe it. And then the child actually tells on them and teachers are being reprimanded. I mean, I know of several incidences personally that this has happened, and I'm blown away that teachers have to face any sort of disciplinary action for having done what I feel like is a stellar job. And it's that one with her. It's where we're here now because we want to start taking charge and supporting our teachers and being here and being present.
All right. I have to really say, after 3 hours, we have to bring this somewhat to a close. Let me say this, though. This is the first time as a moderator, and I've been moderator for 10 years, that we've seen this kind of activity, community response. Normally this is a meeting that is lightly attended. Because it was so highly attended tonight, and by people that not only wanted to hear, but wanted to, like yourselves, and both sides of the room, participate in the meeting, I think is fantastic. It's overwhelming. It's something new. It isn't something. This is the type of dialogue that used to occur when we had a real town meeting. Yet the gym was jammed with 300 people, and things were laid out on the table. I would encourage you to take this level of input and concern back to the school board. And something that not only for the school board and for the candidates, what I heard tonight overwhelmingly was the question was raised on leadership. I think we as a community have to say to our leaders, these are the goals that we want. If you as parents to the school board say, we want 50% less bullying, or whatever that goal is, set that goal, and then have the school board from the top down, because you empower them or you demand them to do that, set that goal and see that it's carried out. I learned a long time ago, poor leadership at the top, it just gets watered down and is all the way to the bottom to the lowest person. You then end up with poor outcomes, poor workers. So as a leader of 41 people, I take it seriously to set the pace and the direction, and I think we need to ask not only the Board of Selectmen, it was clear tonight, but always the school board and the school board members too. This is the direction, but you have to tell them this is the direction you want to go. A board without goals is just going to flounder. So let your vote speak. Thank you for coming tonight. You all deserve a round of applause for being in government, being here, participating, and this is how it gets done. Thank you.
You did.